Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 32. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is my own Voldemort.
Paul, hey everybody, I have a nose.
Yeah. That Voldemort with a nose. Specifically because this has been a rare week where our brains have just been so perfectly in sync. It's kind of terrifying. Like us posting or about to post the exact same things at the exact same moment at the exact same time.
It's happened 3 times in a week, just to
So,
clarify.
so but still, like maybe a fourth one or fifth one could even happen. So at this point, I feel like me becoming as old as you finally put me in sync, at least for the next 3 months. It's just been so funny because it's just been like without fail. When that happened today, I was like, no, it's like you've become my Voldemort. You're like, I'm like feeling you. You feel me.
I am
So,
within your brain.
how you doing, Paul?
I'm doing good. I'm taking a step back because this is that small reprieve before next week where more of everything continues to come out.
Yeah.
I believe we have at least 2, maybe 3 things coming out that we wanted to play next week
Yes.
alone.
And then the week after, and then the week
is
after.
Starfield.
Yeah. So
So yeah, I'm taking a moment to go back and either catch up on some things that I never finished, or vice versa, go back to things that I finished that I feel fondly for, that I'm just really itching to replay.
yeah,
So
I'm like,
that's kind of what I've been doing.
yeah, I'm like in that wild time where I'm just like bouncing around from game to game to game to game, because it's like not that nothing is quite hitting the spot, but nothing's hitting the spot that I want to like spend so many hours within it at a time. It's just because it feels like this is like the time to like start like taking bites of everything. So it's definitely left me feeling a little schizophrenic with like some of these games. Even though I did went back and finish another game from this year, and definitely I'm gonna talk about that. But more important, I'm 30 now, which it's terrifying that
3 decades.
Yeah, it's the 3 decades already happened. And here's the thing, Paul. I thought I would be more like depressed about it, but here's what's been so lovely about this. Everyone that told me happy birthday yesterday and asked me, wait, you're 30? Almost like 99% of the people saying, you don't look like it. And it's funny because I did post a picture of me like doing like the 2 decades, y'all, that I took exactly like 10 years ago, because I knew that whenever I hit this point, I wanted to do like like the 3 decades, and people are like, you look the same. And since growing up, a lot of people, when I was like 18, people thought I was 25. Like when I was so much younger, everyone always thought I was older than I looked. Then the pendulum swung the other way. Now people are like, you look younger than what you look like, and I'm like, I've been waiting for this moment for so long. So I don't feel as bad as like flaunting because my brother was like, it's kind of crazy that you're like flaunting that you're freaking 30, and I'm like, it is because people are telling me that I look younger than what I am, and that to me is like a big win after being told growing beard so early and all that, being like, no, you look I remember when I was on a college visit in 2011 when I was still 17. So, and I was like kind of like dressed up because it was our Christian university, and for like the chapel services we needed to like be dressed up like at least semi casual. People ask me, are you a teacher here? And I'm like, I'm 17. I'm like a student, I'm not a teacher here. So that's been with me for like this past decade. So it's just been that the reverse Benjamin Button has been like really really appreciated. But afterwards, let's see, like maybe my hair will go white like within a year, because I've seen that happen. So but as of this moment, I'm just proud of being like, yeah, you look young. Do people tell you look 30, Paul?
People started to say that I looked a little bit older than what I really am. So I think at this point I'm probably in that mid-30s to most people, but that's also because I'm huge and tower over all of them.
I think that's
that kind of adds a few years.
Yeah, the big size, the big the big weight and all that kind of like gives that impression, because I remember seeing like some of your youth pictures like you sent us that people are not gonna see ever, that I'm glad that I got to see when you were doing your Roxas cosplay. That I still can't believe that you went that far.
I did. I went really hard when I finally did, but I'm glad. Just be glad for your genes, because I think I got lucky. My brother is already almost completely bald from hair loss.
Oh no!
And he is 4 years younger than me.
Oh shoot! Oh, that's some really bad luck. Really,
Yep.
because your dad is
Hasn't
not like
even
that,
hit.
right?
My dad is absolutely like my brother. I inherited my mom's hair,
Mm-hmm.
so I have the thick, crazy curls.
Uh huh.
Ooh,
Yeah, because I
dodged
remember
a
seeing some
bullet.
pictures with your dad, because your dad's not bald, right? He has like that white hair. So,
He had a procedure done to put a
oh,
little hair back, but in his 30s, he was almost completely bald.
ooh, that.
Um,
So,
yeah, and he also had needed glasses early, so I'm really hoping that I hold out as long as I
mhm,
can for that one.
yeah,
But we'll see.
but yeah, 30 is like 3 decades now. You were there last December. We didn't really like talk too much about that, but it's like we're now in equal footing. Even our buddy Sebastian was already 30, because I was the youngest
Yep.
of the three when we were like recording. So it's so funny thinking about it. And I'm the technically youngest member of Season Gaming. They're like mid 30s, and our EIC is like 40. So every time that I talk about my age, my EIC always like sends me the annoyed Michael Scott memes because that's when he feels his age. So it's so funny. But yeah, it's like new deck. The new decade starts now. Well, let's see where it takes me. So now the illnesses hopefully are not going to start like ramping up from that point onward,
What I
because that's
have learned on a positive side is at least nobody can claim that you're still a child.
yeah,
Every year, every category has been ridiculous with people saying, "Oh, you're still a kid." Like, "Oh,
yeah,
you turned 18." No, you're still a kid.
yeah,
25, still a kid. 30, okay, I can't. They
yeah.
can't claim
Someone,
it anymore.
yeah. Someone was saying that the 30s are the new 20s, because people used to like have more respect of people that were already in their 20s, but something
Pretty
happened, and
much.
now like, yeah. I was just thinking, so yeah, basically, I can no longer think of myself as a kid. That's weird and terrifying. And now things are like each is real, but yeah, the good thing though is that we can escape and not pretend otherwise here in this podcast, because this is our the X Bottom podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available in the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, Paul, let me start with the games this week, because I did play slightly a little bit more than you. I finished Remnant 2. I
Yep.
After waiting too many times to be like, we're gonna play Remnant this time, and seeing that the extended gaps was kind of like deflating my excitement, waiting for the perfect time that you would be able to play, and especially knowing that it's like you wouldn't carry any of my progress with you. It's like you would just come and aid me, and then if you went back to your world, it's like back into the sewers where you had last stopped playing by yourself. So, and when you were like, don't worry, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna push through and finish it, and I did. I finished it
Yep.
last Sunday. Yeah, I finished it this past Sunday, and this is definitely a classic example of a game that I was really, really enjoying, really loved so much about it, that all of those positive vibes almost were completely ruined by a truly horrendous final boss. It was so bad that I even clipped it. I had to clip my winning round, which only happened because, thank God, I went to an LFG in one of the discords that I'm in, and I asked, hey, anyone has Remnant on PS5 want to help me? And there were so many people ready, because people were also looking for help.
Mm,
Because did you get to see the clip, the 10-minute thing that I sent
I
you?
did.
Yeah,
I watched part of it at least, and it was kind of crazy.
yeah. It's like it's too much happening. It's like it's a final boss that requires the perfect iframe dodging. That's all contingent of you listening to the sounds the boss was making. Eventually, when I figured that out, because it's one of the few bosses that has a two-face attack. We actually one of those we fought that early on, the ghost that had like a two-face that was like outside a mansion and then teleporting us inside the mansion. Remember that we had trouble early on with that one. So it's so funny. There's barely any bosses that do two faces. So we got stuck with one early on when we played co-op, and then I was stuck with this one at the very, very, very end. And eventually I got so good at that first phase that I didn't get hit a single time. But the second phase is just absolute madness. It teleports into like a weird VR, like augmented reality thing, where there's like so many red particles flying around. It's like you have to like know when the boss is gonna send like a big like like I say, like a big axe attack that hits in the middle that then may move left and right, and then when that happens, there's like some roots that are like in the cover that may or may not hit you, so you have to be ready with the dodging. Then sometimes it will teleport you back to the original arena, and in that arena, sometimes it will teleport you in the middle of the boss doing its attack or about to start an attack, and sometimes those teleports would screw you, or other times they wouldn't, and it just signified to me is like I had no idea how I would have ever been able to beat this by myself, and I'm thankful for that LFG guy that helped me, and also because I opened the matchmaking, and the third person that joined us had 14 healing items, 14. So he definitely had been grinding a lot, or has been like doing the adventure mode to like re-roll and re-roll and re-roll. That came in clutch because I went down in that boss fight like a couple times, and that guy revived me. And because I was a healer, I was doing the thing that I do, like a scream that envelops the characters into like an aura that gives both a shield and slowly starts like recharging. So combining all of that, I was able to beat it. And then I immediately cheated that game out of my system. 65 gigs 65 gigs like free. And to me, it's a bummer because there's so much about that game that I really like. I still stand that in the AA space, this game looks like what you like, kind of what we're talking about. It's like Unreal Engine 5 is allowing AA developers to make their games look AAA in a way that it should allow for a new breed of AAA. That's kind of like that in between the cheap, not quite bargain bin, but kind of like not the super high quality thing, and then the super AAA production. And especially with people see the different price ranges, then people have different associations. I feel like from a quality standpoint, Remnant 2 really, it's a good example of what I want these new like breed of AAA game that's cheaper to be, because like there's nothing about that game like in art direction and how it feels mechanically, how it looks, that's like cheap or like not evocative. Yeah. There's so much. I sent you pictures of the final biome that was basically the Upside Down from Stranger Things, and that's like so like moving through those worlds is so evocative, and I really enjoyed it for that. It's just that unfortunately I got Metroid dreaded by this one in the way you got Metroid Dread, because that didn't quite happen to me with the Metroid Dread final boss, because after 45 minutes trying, my first time that I fought it, I beat it. You had to like deal with the sting of like losing and coming back to the boss, and I think you spent like 2 days trying to beat the final boss of Metroid Dread, and that completely
at least two
drained you and Zach, I remember, and that killed your positive opinion of that game. So
yep.
that tends to happen, and I was just talking with the guys over at Season Gaming that it's so funny that in this like Souls-like games, like in recent times, I have no idea why my like break my head against the wall moment happens in the final boss. Remember Elden Ring? Yep. Like Radon, I beat it in 2 tries. Malekith, 1 try. Malenia, 45 minutes of just trying it the first time, but I beat it. It's like every single boss that I had been hearing was giving people trouble. Like I went ahead. I came out. Oh, my favorite, Ornstein and Smough in original Dark Souls. I beat those 2 in like 1 try. And I remember when I tell you, and then you just you introduced me to the Spider-Man meme,
It was heating me up, the fact that you were able to just clear out everything that was making me struggle, whether it was younger Paul having a lot of trouble beating something for weeks or months, to now where it's like, oh, it took me several days to beat that, and you're like, what, like it's hard, and then just one-shotting it. So the fact that you finally had some trouble, there's a little bit of vindication in it, but then also like, geez, if he's having trouble, then it's actually really hard.
But remember, it was like, I warned you, like back in Elden Ring, I warned you about the Elden Beast. Even though I beat the Elden Beast the same day that I fought it, it was after 4 hours. That Elden Beast took you a week. 2 probably. So
yeah.
So it was like, it's in those moments, and there's nothing I hate more than a sour feeling being the last taste you get from a game. That is the reason why I didn't give originally Elden Ring my number 1 spot when we did Game of the Year. I put it as number 2. And even then, before I did a replay, I had it as number 5 because that's how salty I was about how that final boss completely like left me with like such a bad last impression. And because there's like bad endings and then there's bad impressions. Because sometimes if it's a bad ending for story reasons, if playing it was still fun up until that moment, I don't feel as salty about it as like a super frustrating thing that then when I beat it, it's not like, oh my god, I beat it. It's just like, thank God I beat it. Like, I still save that picture of when the God Slain from Elden Ring with me like flipping the game. Like, and I kept that energy. It'd be like, I can't in good conscience give my game of the year to a game I told it to F itself. It's like, that's not, it's like that would be lying to myself. So obviously separating myself, kind of like what I told you this year, is like now removing and going back into the game and re-experiencing the early parts and all that, and like studying it more academically, knowing what the game was and all that, change my tune more and be like, no, actually Elden Ring was the best game that came out in 2022, more than Ragnarok, when Ragnarok was my number 1. And I flipped on Ragnarok this year, where I'm like, do I even really like it? I don't feel like the desire to even go back to it after New Game Plus, and I kind of really want to go back to it because I need to see for myself, like, if that's it, because Ragnarok got Uncharted 4 for me. Remember when I was so negative about Uncharted 4, like until I finally like replayed it and be like, no, this is actually one of the better ones. It may still not be my favorite. I still like stand with 2, but it's like I used to poo-poo it a lot. So maybe that's kind of what's happening, and I think it's just because it was so long that just the idea of trying to do it again it's like it's less appealing. So that's why I kind of say that, to me, like the sign of a long-standing game, or like an old-timer, is what is my desire to go through it again, and gleefully go through a game again. I think that tells me more about a game staying power more than a game that was really amazing in just that one go, but then I don't want to do it again. You know what? I feel like that's how you know a game is timely, because it's like if a game is so good that regardless of length and everything, you want to do another run of it, then that's a good sign. So yeah, that's kind of why. But back to Remnant 2. So yeah, it's like I got Metroid Dread with that. So it's a game that I had at an 8. That in Saturday, when I was getting my teeth kicked in, that I asked you if you wanted to join in, and you were like, I already filled my quota of co-op games with chat, like for a. So at that time I was like, I'm dropping this to like a 5 out of 10, and then when I beat it, I was like 7. I immediately tweeted it, deleted it, and moved on. And then I moved on to the other game, which we actually did try after we recorded last week, and I had tried it just a little bit before we recorded, Atlas Fallen. One of the games that were in our top 10 most anticipated games at the bottom of the list. It was my number 10. It was your number 9. We did a good session of co-op, and what a standard nothing burger of a game with really good ideas, but such a bland how can I say this, like such a bland exterior to its story, its aesthetic, that it's just a game that when you're playing it, you're like, I like this movement, especially when you join. Thankfully, this has the border, like unlike Remnant, this was something that I was able to like skip you through so much of the tutorial that was pretty bad. The tutorial, like the early hours of that game are like super rough. Like you really see the cheapness of everything. Like you don't have the movement or all that. It's until you start sand surfing where something starts clicking with like, okay, gameplay wise, there's something here. But the dash mechanics, when you're like jumping around and you're able to like double or triple dash to be able to move around the world and all that, it has cool elements of that. And the combat has a little bit of Devil May Cry in it, with like some combo movements, and then like mixing it with like the L2 and face buttons that when you build up a certain meter. It has like some fun to that, but it's like it's so unremarkable in any other aspect that when I was playing it 2 days ago, I sent you the meme. I looked for a GIF of the I was trying to see if there was a GIF of the thinking Spider-Man, like my all-time favorite photo of him now, but I found the one of like Spider-Man like tweeting while he's like doing the fast travel in the trains for 2018, and I was like,
it kind of works.
Yeah, it kind of works. I was like, I kind of think I want to go back to other stuff, and that to me is not good, because I don't think the game is bad, but it's not great either. It's in that it's kind of like in this weird space where it's neither. And I was kind of saying it, it's like, yes, fundamentally, I think it's a better game than like Forspoken, because Forspoken is the thing that it reminded me of. But there's something about the cringiness of Forspoken that, at the very least, had something that get me want to play it, at least, other than the fact that I was reviewing it. But there was just something that I was like actively wanting to see, like how much ridiculous the dialogue could get, or like where the story could go, because the story of Forspoken is actually surprisingly good. Like, you unfortunately dropped off right at the moment where you were about to turn around because you were in that bad spot, and then you just continued to not playing. Plus, going back to it after experiencing much better games was just not gonna work for you. It's a game that you had to start there and then go play the better stuff, not play the better stuff and then like walk back. It was just not gonna work. So
at a certain point, it's like I'm just suffering to force myself through this whole situation, because I mean, like, it's great, gameplay is all right, but it's not enough to overcome the absolutely abysmal, or at least not really their storyline. The lore doesn't really interest me.
We're talking Forspoken or Atlas?
Oh, I'm still. I went back to Atlas Fallen.
Slightly. Okay, yes.
Just kind of explaining the fact that you start off the game and you get like a sort of janky, like prologue-y action thing that's like really bare bones, really not really grabbing me at all. And then it goes into this weirdly spread out, like, you're a prisoner tutorial. And you have to walk around and talk to people, and then you get your powers, and it's like,
and combat initially is not good because you only have one way to attack, and the combat is like super slow. But
and where Final Fantasy 16, for instance, could get away with it because they still had a good, interesting story and lore to fall back on, this one is just like, go talk to this person, go talk to that person, go talk to this person for about 10 to 15 minutes before you even run around anywhere. And then once you do, it kind of sucks. And then finally, after you like escape and start skating on the sand and whatever, that's when it's like, okay, we're kind of picking it up. I get this now.
That's like the good, like, gameplay wise is what Atlas Fallen is good at. It's like, from a mechanics perspective, it's like we were actually talking, imagine Final Fantasy 16 had this kind of movement, because Clive feels really slow in comparison to like how your character in Atlas Fallen sprints around the world. Is like he doesn't have much weight, but he has kind of like the weight of like a mid-tier like PS2 game, like a platforming game, and that actually made it fun because it's like it's just ignoring physics and just embracing kind of like fantasy, and that is where the game's at its best. And some of the armor aesthetics are actually pretty cool. You see the picture that I posted of like now this Crusader looking dude. I was like, okay, there's something about the aesthetic of Atlas Fallen in the specific aspects that I'm like, yeah, I kind of like this. But then it's just everything else. It's just not a game that I'm like thinking about like right now that I'm playing, or being like, I see it hovering in my cross media bar when I want to play, and I'm like, do I want to really play this right now? And I'm like, I mean, this is okay. It's so okay that I'm like, I kind of wish, part of me kind of wishes it was bad, you know, because sometimes a bad game you just kind of want to see it through. Again, kind of what I say is I think now it's made me reappreciate Forspoken a little bit more. Because even though this game is better than Forspoken in some areas, Forspoken is just more memorable, like an experience in that kind of like in this like lower tier. So maybe one time I'm gonna hanker, because that's the thing. I didn't think I was gonna finish Remnant 2 for a little bit after we were talking about that. I was kind of losing steam just waiting on you, and I was not gonna force you because obviously like I need to like be judicious of your gaming time and what you want and how you like lose steam frequently and things. And Atlas Fallen, at the very least, like it doesn't feel like you have that pressure because you can just basically skip stuff and just join me in, and automatically gives you all needed upgrades that you need, and then you can keep that save and go like on your own, which is like so appreciated. It's a Borderlands scenario.
That was such a quality of life that you would think should be commonplace now, and for whatever reason it wasn't. But I am so relieved that I was able to, like, if I wanted to, continue where I left off on all of that process. And like the fact that it gave me 3 separate options, it gave me the upgrade ability, but stay where I was in the story if I wanted to experience it myself. Just like keep the story, not the stuff. Don't keep anything or keep everything. Like I had so much choice that I could just, based on my playstyle, could pick
exactly. It's cool that they gave the option. Be like, because I know like I have this problem. Like I have noticed this happens to me with co-op games sometimes. That became like more tenfold with like Remnant when I realized that. Sometimes I really like going my first time through a story alone. And that happened to me back in The Witch Queen. Do you remember back when we launched with The Witch Queen a year ago? It always seems because when you're like in co-op, it's very rare that you're gonna be quiet. You're gonna be chatting with your buddy, and you're gonna miss some details. So, so that's why I liked going through some of these stories alone at the first time, especially if I care about the story. And then on replays, especially Destiny that's built on replays, especially like going through your alternate characters and all that, it's different now because like now I can dial up the difficulty because now I know what I'm in for. I can start goofing off with my friends when I do that. So I was noticing that a lot. So that's cool that at least Atlas Fallen gives you now that option of like, hey, you can keep going for it or you stopped the last time we played. And more co-op centric games need to do that. But yeah, like Atlas Fallen right now is like it was definitely okay, I'm hungry right now, let me go buy some McDonald's and eat it, and it's fulfilling in the moment because I'm not starving now, but it's definitely not gonna like keep like be in my mind now that we have the succulent entrees and main courses coming like pretty soon. So at the very least, Atlas Fallen is a small download, so it's like it doesn't feel like too much of a wait. So maybe the time will click to be like, hey, let's like see if we can just push through to just delete this. So it's kind of like in that bag for me right now. So yeah, it's like it's okay. Definitely like the 66 Metacritic feels right around the money because it's not bad. It's just it's just very okay. It's a 3-star thing. It's a 6 out of 10. Like maybe at the most a 7 in spots, but it's just that it's definitely missing more to make it more like appealing. To prop up its really good parts. That's the thing that's missing, is like because that combat, like I feel they really nailed that combat. Especially I've unlocked even more. Like I have this super strong gauntlet like thing that breaks enemy defenses more, even though it's still so annoying when you're fighting one of those bosses that they go out of bounds and then it resets the whole fight. That happened to us a couple times. Like that's still happening to me. I was like, this seems whack. It's like this seems like this should have been like tightened up more, because it can get really annoying when you're like so close to beating one of those bosses and then it just restarts it. And I just bumped it down to easy, just to be like, I want as least friction as I can, since I'm not reviewing this game. Like, I don't have no commitment of this. So maybe I would continue if I was actually committing, but since we didn't get code, and in season gaming is very review if you really want to, if you didn't get code. So I'm like, yeah, it's like this and Atomic Heart are the games that I've just like dropped this year so far. It's and Atomic Heart. Oh man,
it's like so good.
Oh man,
it had everything that I needed, and it just didn't feel good enough. But man,
maybe a PS5 version would feel good enough, but it's just that it just passes by. I feel if that game got on Game Pass, and now what I'm seeing, like the moves that PlayStation is doing with PS Plus Extra and all that, maybe eventually when it gets to like an extra / premium, maybe that's when I'm gonna retry it. Like now with like the full, like maybe even more bells and whistles of playing like with the higher end machine instead of the Series S. So, but yeah, as I was kind of like bouncing around after 2 months, I tell you, they didn't say it, but I was like scouring Facebook Marketplace like a maniac. I found it. I freaking found The Amazing Spider-Man, like the 2012 one. Trying to find that game for all in the market is nigh on impossible. If you didn't buy it back then, like good luck right now. Like it's either $100 game on Amazon, or
pretty sure I still got my 360 copy.
Yeah, and you can't even play it because it's not even like backwards compatible. There's like no, you have to cross. Yeah, you have to cross fingers that Microsoft does something with it if the Activision thing goes through. Kind of like we heard about the Transformers games, that Hasbro has been like actively being like, hey, we want to work with Microsoft for them to put those games on Game Pass. They would be great additions. So, and that's another game that you have, War for Cybertron. So, it was like when I was doing the Spider-Man replay, when I played Shattered Dimensions and all that, I was like, there was something that was hankering me inside of me, but like, I really want to replay the original Amazing Spider-Man. And the PC version that I downloaded was like so busted, and it had like a save bug that then when I immediately jumped into Amazing Spider-Man 2, just something felt off and wrong of doing that, and that's why I jumped immediately into 2018 again. But part of me still in the back of my mind was like, man, I kind of really want to go through the Amazing Spider-Man again. It's been like more than 10 years since I first like played it when I rented it, and going through that, it's like there is such a great Spider-Man game inside that game that it's like, again, it's just emblematic of the Spider-Man license under Activision around that time. Activision was just not giving time to their developers to make these games. Yeah. The only time that they gave time to the developer was Beanox for Shattered Dimensions. They gave them an extra year because Web of Shadows was 2008. And then 2009, no Spider-Man game came out that year. But then 2010 came with Shattered Dimensions, and it was like so... And I told her, it's like, even in that replay with that busted PC version that I was playing, I was like pushing through it because there was like such a good game also there. And mostly pretty polished and pretty well designed and all that. And then Activision was like, oh, you did such a great job. Do it again and quickly. And then the next year we got Edge of Time, which ended up being the worst Spider-Man game of that entire generation. So we went from the best to the worst almost immediately because they had to like put something out in like 8 months. You don't make a game like that. Like, that's just not how you make games. And then around that time, and then that game even suffered more because they were like, oh yeah, by the way, the Andrew Garfield for Spider-Man movie is also gonna come out, and we're gonna need a tie-in. So they had to like wrap up whatever they were trying to do with Edge of Time so quickly because then they moved on to that one, and that was done in like at least a year. But they were cooking something there that you kind of like, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth yesterday. And the Amazing Spider-Man 2012 walked for Spider-Man 2018 to run. So much of what 2018 is great at was attempted in the 2012 one. Spider-Man with stealth, that was in 2018, that started here. Arkham-style combat with Spider-Man started there. The amazing scale of like when you're like swinging through the city and all that, especially like some of the boss fights in the Amazing Spider-Man 2012 game when you're fighting those like giant robots, and like how the camera just like is like so close to your character, and like it's just doing all this crazy stuff. There's just a level of scale that they were working in that this game is just slightly let down by the fact that it definitely, you can see that it was done quickly. It looks ugly. Like that, the Spider-Man suit looks great, and in fact, it's actually really cool that it has the Arkham thing, that your suit keeps getting like torn up the more you play, and then you can like go back to your.
I really love that detail.
Yeah, it's just it's such a tiny detail, and it's like it just adds character to a game. In fact, like 2018 doesn't even do that. Like he only like the suit only gets messed up story, like
at
if
the
it's
very end.
Yeah, and only if it's a story moment. But it's like your suit gets messed up in this game as you're playing, like through gameplay. Like
you could argue that the regular suit got messed up.
But story, but again, it's like it only got messed up like through a scripted story moment. Whereas your suit in this Amazing Spider-Man is kind of like the Wolverine game, that the X-Men Origins Wolverine thing.
Does it really?
That is like it gets torn up as you're playing. Like the gameplay damage you're getting is being reflected in your game. And then I
forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's like
the Batman one was story related.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like this one even took the idea of Batman further because it was like it's actual gameplay that's like, other than at times the story tears it up, in your actual game it starts tearing up, and then until you go back to your apartment and reload, that's when your suit like gets like stitched up and back again. So it's like such cool tiny little details that Beanox was doing that. It's unfortunate that then like the level design in the missions is like so boring. It's like there's so many sewer levels and so many Oscorp levels. Like everything just looks exactly the same. That after a while I'm like, man, it's like there really was like no level variety in this game, isn't it? But it really comes alive when you're like outside. So it was like they had a good idea, and I wish Activision had given them more time to perfect it, because they totally didn't give them time for the second game, and the second game was like such a bad game that justified Marvel. Like when Marvel was finally taking go more serious and be like, no, we're gonna be more serious about games, they janked the license and gave it to Insomniac. So it's so bittersweet to think that it's like I don't really blame Beanhawks a lot, because like they did two of the better ones that generation, especially when they took the baton from Treyarch, because Treyarch was just so. They went from being the Spider-Man team within Activision to becoming the secondary Call of Duty team that then became like the primary one when Infinity Ward exploded, and now Treyarch is like it's neither the primary nor the secondary. The Treyarch is like in a weird spot right now after Black Ops 4 like went so bad for them. Like in that the only game that they had to cancel a campaign that automatically like lowered their cachet, and then Cold War, the good part of Cold War, the campaign they didn't even make. That was Raven Software. So and they only did like the multiplayer and zombies, and apparently Treyarch is doing zombies for the new one we're gonna talk about later. So it's like their prestige is kind of like risen and fallen, but they used to. I mean, they were the ones that introduced open world Spider-Man back in PS2 with Spider-Man 2. That's still like such a landmark game for so many of us. That was my first ever open world game, so I always had that special like place in my heart to that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2 game. And so many people have. It's a horrible game in today's standards if you go look at it, but
I remember the crazy Tekken style combos that you had to pull off to do anything. I mean, even I never will forget, there was a move that let you swing around and land on a street pole. There was no reason you ever needed it, but it was a ridiculous input to do like square X, whatever, R2, and like back to forward to make sure you went around it. Like, why?
It had complexity. So unnecessary. Yeah, it was so unnecessarily complex, but that was kind of like the beauty of that Spider-Man 2 game. It was like the first of its kind. Like like in the mainstream way, because obviously the only open world game back then was GTA. If you're a wee lad like we were 10, 9, I think around the time like this game came out in 2004, it was like that was our first taste of what has become now the de facto formula for so many games now. But that first game's always special, even though like I remember when I did the emulator thing with Dolphin, I downloaded the GameCube version of that one just to be like, I want to see this again. And boy, oh boy, I tell you, it does not hold up in the slightest. But there's something so janky, charming about it that the stupid pizza missions, the balloon, all of that. It's like all of that is just so ingrained in my mind. But 2018 definitely has taken this formula, and it's like the best it's ever been. But it's unfortunate the Beanox game is like, because of how bad Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, I don't think people remember this one. This one was a hidden gem. It totally was. And it could have been so much better. But we got better stuff now. Now we got the sequel for that one. But I'm putting respect on that game, on this game. I'm going to see if I want. I'm going to beat it. I'm already halfway through. I looked at a guide. I'm at chapter 8 of 13. It's just, I wish the parts that I don't like about it didn't sting more this time compared to like the things that I really like about it. I really love web swinging in this thing and collecting comic books. There's just something about you're flying in, the icon be like, press this to get the comic book. There's just something about superhero games that lets you like just fly around and get collectibles that can be so zen and active. So the other game really quickly that I played more was Final Fantasy VII, Paul. I did that section that I told you that there's like this reactor has like an eagle at the top. Then you go to the top and then this soldier tells you, hey, can you give us money? Because we're about to be invaded by Shinra. And then you have to give them like 5,000 gil. So I had to go grind on that. And then when you do that, you have to do like a weird tower defense thing that's so bad. Because like it's like you don't even see it's just polygons of things that you put like that are supposed to be like, oh yeah, this is a soldier, but it's just like a polygon thing. And here comes like a supposed wyvern, but that's also like a polygon thing. And you have to prevent it from reaching to the top, because if not, Cloud and your team has to like fend off thing. And because I have the God mode, I was like, you know what? Come invade me. Come here, and with my God mode, I'm gonna destroy them. Even though it was like, oh yeah, I can imagine this would have been really hard without God mode, because it's like this wyvern takes a lot to.
I barely vaguely even remember that, and it just kind of reminds me that besides all the cool revelations about the story, I still think that game peaks in Midgar.
Yeah, the things I've heard it peaks much later than where I am, and that's kind of like what I can't wait to see.
Some people really go with that. I mean, like there's still some cool stuff that happens in the story, but like there's never a point where the combat continues to evolve, you know? Where like how cool it was, imagine with like Final Fantasy 4 and 6, for instance, with like the rotating cast, the really huge growing nature of all of that.
Well, and also because you have to unlock 2 optional characters with Vincent and Yuffie also.
And that's like even then, though, it's like you can still only use 3 characters as opposed to the previous. I think it was 5 for Final Fantasy
5 for 4,
4.
5 for 4, and 4 for 6.
So like they're taking steps back in so many ways that it's almost making me, in hindsight, look back on the game far harsher.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
it's
but
kind
that's
of unfortunate.
no, but that's the thing. Like that, Final Fantasy VII is the game. There's a reason why that was the game everyone was asking for a remake. So much of that game, like, just does not hold up to scrutiny. On top of just the visuals which I will say, like, at least the PC version that you get on PS4, because that was the version that they ported over. I like how the game looks in combat. With the characters actually feel fully formed. They're not polygonal messes. They actually have like some cool form to it. It's just the chibi look of them when you're like in just the overworld and moving around. That's the thing that just like looks really bad now. But yeah, it's like I do stand with 4 and 6 are just much better Final Fantasy games than 7, like original version of 7. But I also want to see through a lot of 7, because even though I knew about the story, how they did the Nibelheim flashback was so thrilling, and I could imagine just how cool that was back then. Especially knowing, because I haven't looked ahead, I know this is coming. I can't wait to see how this game handles the reveal of exactly what happened when the flashback just cuts. And that we know, since we played Crisis Core and we played other and we've seen the story, that what you see in that Nibelheim flashback is a lie. That's not how things went. So I really want to see how that moment plays out in that, and also the big Aerith moment, which we know which moment that is. So I want to see how that, because I've only read of those. I've never seen them myself, because I wanted to save myself the eventuality that I want to experience, even though I know the story. So I'm still gonna be chipping away at Final Fantasy VII. It's just the fact that I can play with God mode and not have to worry about dying and all that. That makes it more palatable, and the 3x speed. Remember the 2 clips that I show you? This is what combat looks like without 3x speed. This is what happens when I press L3. Then you see it. It's like, I can't imagine everyone playing it with the 20 frames. It looks like it's just like not even 20, maybe 15 frames of like slow panning, select attack, slow charge thing, and then the attack does like a weird stop motion thing to get close to the to the enemy and do the attack. Is like, that's how people play that game. People were so blown away back in '97 for that. But it's like, no, that just doesn't hold up. And I'm glad this quality of life was added with the just speed this thing up. And
we have truly come a long way. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, we don't make games like we used to. It's like, buddy, there's a lot that you forget or have a few rose-colored glasses on. But overall, games are being made way better than they were.
Yeah. Especially from that generation, the PS1 generation, unless you're doing pixel art stuff like Symphony of the Night came out that generation, and that's still considered a GOAT, or as originally, because it was a sprite thing. Final Fantasy VI was re-released in PS1 as a sprite thing, one of the greatest games ever made. Is the 3D, like the 3D version of PS1 games that remakes are like perfect for. Like a lot of that generation has to be rescued through like these remakes that we've been gotten, and most of them have been rescued. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, they were big games in there. It's like now they're like in really cool, as originally they were, but now looking cool and looking like you would expect a video game to look now. And the essence of those games is still as fun as you remember them being, even if there's been quality of life that improves the experience in such a subtle way that you would have sworn that's how those games always were. That's been the beauty of like the remakes that we've been getting recently. And obviously, with Final Fantasy VII, it's like that bittersweet thing that the remakes they're doing are also so good. Final Fantasy VII Remake was just so damn good, despite just being a third of it. But it's just the idea that it's still not the game it was, because it's just a completely different thing. And the only way to really experience that story as originally was is still the original version, and that's a big ask, unless you are like me and you're able to put your mind back to what those games used to be. Which I'm such a nostalgia gamer. It's easy for me to do that. You're not as nostalgic about that. Your nostalgia comes the generation after PS2. That's where your nostalgia lies. Mine lies earlier. So, and then we went quickly. We did like a birthday bash, Destiny 2 raid yesterday. We did the Last Wish. I had been intending, because it's not being a good time about to be a Destiny fan, but a recent 12, a video that we're gonna talk about, and like an announcement yesterday about some sandbox updates with what they're doing with some specific weapons coming next week, reignited my desire to be like, you know what? I wanna try this. Like, I wanna start like shake the cobwebs back, like away, go back to my long-term love from last generation. And I tell you, Paul, yes, this game has so many problems and all that, but there's just something about Destiny, that controller in hand, moving around shit. It's like, it's so like, that's why.
Still gotta give it to him for making such a solid shooter.
Yeah, it's like, just the gameplay is why people can't get away with this.
Yeah.
Like, especially like I was experiencing Final Fantasy 14 recently. It's like the MMO aspect of Final Fantasy 14 is so good. Like, it's so well thought out, so fleshed out. Too much, one would say. You eventually like hit a snag recently, because it was like, oh yeah, I have 100 quests left in still a Realm Reborn, and I still haven't touched expansions. But the actual act of playing Final Fantasy 14, it's like, it's okay. It's like, it's an MMO, but it's like, that's what Destiny has in the MMO space that the other ones don't have. Good gameplay can take you can take you far. And I was reminded of that doing that raid, which we almost didn't finish. Almost. And we pulled it off right before you left. That came in clutch. We're doing last wish.
Oh my gosh. The fact that everything kind of lined up just the way it needed to for us to barely make it out of that situation. I think the longer I play that raid, the less I like the Last Wish, honestly.
Yeah, Last Wish is one of those that, from a replayability standpoint, is not as strong. It's the most beloved raid for the hardcore, because the memory of when that raid launched back in 2018, where it launched at a time where people were so underpowered, you didn't have the power sandbox we have now. And it's still the most legendary raid race Destiny has ever had. 2 people completed it. Like 2 teams completed it. Clan Redeem, which is Glad on Twitch, and Sweatsicle and all those dudes, they were the ones that completed it. Dado completed it. It's the legendary meme that he completed it 2 minutes after the 24-hour mark.
I hear about that.
Yeah, so the meme 2402 is like forever hunting that man forever. But it's like missing it by 2 minutes. In fact, he recently started doing more variety stuff, and he started speedrunning Mario 64. He completed his Mario 64 70-star run, 24 minutes and 2 seconds. So and he didn't even have to say anything. He just posted a screenshot of it, and people that knew.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's the phrase.
Yeah, but there's just something like the Last Wish raid is one of the most beautiful looking. It's the most complete. It has really good variety of encounters, like how different each, like, because if you remember with other raids, it's like some of them just repeat the exact mechanic, just adding an extra thing. Look at Deepstone Crypt. Oh yeah, this one is like it's all about like hitting those terminals over and over and over again, or like the Road of Nightmares. It's like, yeah, just keep connecting the dots. So there was a level of complexity to Last Wish that's why it's like so beloved. But from a repeatability standpoint, especially because the final boss is one no one ever does legit, like ever. So it's you hoping that the cheese that you're trying to do actually works. And that can be demoralizing, because we had times where that cheese went quickly. Then the thing that happened yesterday, that we did it like 15 times until we finally got it that one final time. So that's what makes that like not like the replayability of that one is like not as good. But I like the aesthetic. I like some of the weapons. Some of the weapon rolls that you get from weapons is actually really cool now. So I can't wait to see, like, if the rumors are true that Crota's End is coming next, like in 2 weeks. The worst Destiny 1 raid, because it was so... I'll say this, you like quick commitments. That one was a quick commitment at the very least, but it was barely a raid. But maybe they changed it. Maybe they're gonna like reshape so much of that raid that makes it hard, but we'll see. But I can't wait for next season to be another time where our clan will be more active with raiding. Because I remember that I was telling Duncan that when the Reprise raid is there, I can't wait to be able to do more of those, because that's still the content that, out of anything in Destiny, is still the thing that when everyone says you want to raid and we get a team, I'm definitely jumping, and it's still the most fun and unique thing that Destiny does. So, you play Sniper Elite 4, 5, and Fallout 4, Paul. You want to say a little bit of your experience? Do
So
you
the
get to
first
destroy some
one,
testicles?
I did a few of which. So I had gone through, let me think. I played Sniper Elite 2 on the 360 forever ago. But like I've never actually bought a Sniper Elite game. This is the funniest thing. I've played all of them since the second game. And I don't even remember how I got it. Fun, whatever. Played 3 because my brother owned it on his Xbox One, and I happened to play it because I inherited his Xbox One after he bought a PS4 and then moved away. Um, then after that, of course, I'm pretty sure it like became free at some point on PlayStation. Uh, Now Sniper Elite 4 set in the Italy, realizing that this series is such a weird sleeper hit. You
Mm-hmm.
never hear people talk about it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is really solid, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's another example of like the storyline doesn't really matter all that much. It's about the same guy going into a different region during World War II, and it's like, you're gonna kill Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
All right, send me in.
Yeah,
That's
and
all you need to know.
yeah, and specifically why like Sniper Elite has like stood up more recently is because stealth-based games are so few and far between. That's one of them. So it's
Yeah.
like just by default, stealth aficionados can use that game, even though it's not like what you would expect from like what people want from their Metal Gears or Splinter Cell. But there's like enough in there that can scratch that itch.
Yeah.
So
There really is just about enough of it. And I was really seeing a lot of Splinter Cell Blacklist and Sniper Elite 4 especially by the end of it, where you're like going through this giant Arctic base and there's a giant plane that's about to take off and you're just stealthing your way through this crazy Death Star looking place. And excuse me, I love how free it lets you feel, because it's very like punishing. If you were not careful, you'll get roasted, you'll get destroyed, even though they give you a sniper, usually an automatic weapon or a shotgun and a pistol. Those other two do nothing to the enemies practically. You will unload an entire magazine before you kill somebody with one of those. Unless you get really lucky with a headshot, but of course all of them are wearing helmets, and realistically all of those helmets will deflect lower caliber bullets. So you have to like, it is your only go loud solution, or you get a few shots with it silenced, but it is really all about getting 60 bullets with your rifle that they clearly equip you with, and it's like, please use the rifle more than everything else. But at the same time, you can also play the game completely loud. You just, as long as you have the right spot, you can shoot every enemy and not even worry about stealth. Of course, after a while, it felt better to just kind of ghost your way into a place and find a nice vantage point and then just unload on everybody. You have traps in the way. And it's just one of those games that rewards planning so much. And I'm realizing I love games that there's a skill element to it, but a lot of your success is from strategy. Sniper Elite is a great example of that now. Dishonored is a great example of that.
Oh yeah, Dishonored,
and I was
perfect
like
for that.
almost going to re-download that game while playing this. And basically anything from Arcane Studios, obviously, but like that's kind of the idea that I've realized. Yeah, there's that really like crazy, just nails to the wall, insane action or clip videos or whatever, but at the same time, if you just set everything up the right way like dominoes, it just falls apart exactly the way you need it to be. So yeah, that all that is to say, I enjoyed myself, and if you're ever thinking about Sniper Elite, that's pretty much available for Game Pass and PlayStation Extra at this point. Almost the whole series, I think. I think technically...
only the latest ones currently, but I think they've given the other ones before.
They have in the past. And 2 is definitely on Game Pass. I checked that. But anyway, yeah, so it's a great time. And the 5th one has Dark Souls invasions.
Really? Ooh.
You can be invaded by an Axis sniper, and you can do the death loop. Phase in, be the sniper in the middle of this dude's campaign, and you could like go hunting for him.
Oh man, it just reminded me, like, would you remember when you invaded me around the time we got Deathful while I was streaming the game, and I didn't know it was you for some reason. Like that
you
didn't
just
like
walked by. It was a dumb NPC just kind of walking away from you.
yeah,
Shot it,
shot it
kept
and just
moving.
kept going, and then you
And
took a screenshot that it was you. I was like, wait, that was you.
Yep. Oh man, that is. There was a point I was actually thinking of replaying Deathloop from the
I
beginning
think,
because I
and
just.
my thing is that I kind of want to now because I've forgotten how to do like the loop. Because that's the thing. Like, once you know the loop, you've broken the game. You know, that's the point. But it's like it killed the replayability. But I feel I've gotten myself enough distance, and I know they did like the golden patch that they added a little extra details for the ending and all that. That I'm like, from a moment to moment, I really enjoyed Deathloop. I didn't like Deathloop when I beat it because when I finally realized that it was not as robust an experience with like a lot of options like what I expected out of an arcane game, to be like, okay, I did a full stealth playthrough and Dishonored 2, now I can do like an old aggro and I have the extra character to flip it out. It's like it didn't have the replayability that I like from Arcane, but from a mechanics perspective, I did enjoy how Deathloop played. So that's why I was like, I've been like, it's a small download, relatively speaking. It's been enough time. That's been one that I've been like, yeah, it's like, I think that's one that the lasting impression soured me a little bit on the experience, but that was a really good time. Right now, just talking about that, being like, no, I did enjoy how that game felt. And that was a really good game in a famished time in 2021 also. And a game that we almost didn't get. So, and finally, Paul, you caved in. You played Fallout 4. You re-downloaded Fallout 4 first on PlayStation. Then under my recommendation, I told you to download the game, the Xbox version, especially for the things that you were trying to do, which was mods.
Yep. So, because of all of that, I downloaded it, of course, like you said, on the PS5, and I just couldn't wait any longer. I was tired of waiting for a next-gen patch, and if we're this close to Starfield, and I have plenty of things to play before Starfield, I'm not going to go back to Fallout 4, I think, once Starfield comes out, because it's going to fill the exact gap that I'm looking for.
Yeah, and it's so funny. The PR guy from Bethesda, Pete Hines, he answered someone asking, hey, we haven't heard much about the next gen patch you guys announced. Like, is that still coming? And then the PR guy was like, you probably have heard that we're shipping a new game in 3 weeks. So that's kind of like all hands on deck are on that. So I will say the timing couldn't have been worse because if Starfield is that much of a leap from Fallout 4, even though Fallout 4 will have like a next gen patch, am I going from Starfield to Fallout 4 afterwards? I don't think that's like the right way to play that. Is probably want to do Fallout 4 first before going to Starfield. And if you were waiting for the next gen patch, that's why I told you, just play the Xbox version because that got FPS boost. So it's like what you're getting for the next gen patch on PS5, which I'm thankful they're still like supporting the PlayStation version, even though they're been acquired by Microsoft. They didn't have any they don't have any obligation to keep doing that, but Bethesda has been throwing bones to PlayStation players here and there, like Quake 2 came to PlayStation also, that surprise release from last week, even though that's on Game Pass, and with extra features in the Xbox versions. So yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, play Fallout 4. At least you're gonna get what you've been waiting for, basically.
Exactly. So yeah, with all of that, I finally switched over to the Xbox version. Obviously, whatever. There's one downside that I've found to all of this, and that is that we do not own the DLC.
Oh shoot, yeah, that's like they that's not included.
And it is not discounted at all.
It
I
was.
looked it up.
It was just this. It was just like $9 like last week. I saw it because
with Game Pass, it goes from $15 to $13.49.
Yeah, it was cheaper in the sale. It was cheaper in the sale, but like the Game Pass related sale is like expensive. So
yeah. Anyway, so the fact that was a bit of a damper on everything, but at the same time, I've already played through all of Far Harbor. I never did get to play Nuka World, but who knows, maybe
and
one
to
day.
be fair, do you think you were gonna get there? Fallout 4 is not a small game.
Like, no, I was gonna go through really the base game. That's why I'm not too burnt out or bent out of shape about it. But it's one of those like, with all these awesome mods, and that's what I'm about to get into in a second. It would be nice to have all of it available here. And like the FPS boost, like you talked about, immediately saw the difference in that because I just replayed the starting prologue. And just I remembered hearing about it back when I got really into modding on my PC. how little was available on the PlayStation version of all of the Bethesda games, and how the Xbox version has most, with a caveat on that, by now, because a lot of those people, there's the same restrictions, they just had to code it slightly differently, and they could put out a new version of that mod onto the console version of the Xbox, Fallout and Skyrim and everything. So I went down and found like a good portion of the mods that I used to have on my PC version of the game, completely overhauling this game. There is like lush greenery everywhere. I've got like a cheat room that has vault openings to different spaces around the entire map, and it takes you into this like Twilight Zone control style room where you have everything you could possibly want. And so you just take a little bit of what you want, maybe if you want all of your carry inventory, don't have to worry about it. Just put on that ring and you could just pick up everything you want. You get a little gun. I'm going to take a picture of it, actually. The last word from Destiny is in that game.
Did they put it in, really?
Somebody put a mod in, and there are 3 separate firing modes. There's single action, double action, and fan the hammer. So you have an animation of your character fanning the hammer on the last word. When you draw it, it spins like when you draw the last word.
Dude, like the modding community for like the Bethesda games is insane. It's like people, that's part of the experience, going through what Bethesda gives and then seeing like what that community does with the tools that they give them, because that's what keeps these games alive. And think what people will do with Starfield, especially because it's gonna be in a system on the Xbox that is not as restrictive as the PlayStation.
I'm praying that they allow the mods, if not at launch, then soon after, like it gets patched in quickly, because they're gonna do so much stuff with that game.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I don't get excited as much anymore, but I feel like I've been talking about the concept of Starfield through like, if only there was some kind of blend of Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky that focused a little bit more on combat, but also exploration.
No, you've said before that like the Bethesda style of like Western RPG is like comfort food for you, and I get it. So like, look how many times have you like just popped Skyrim back in. It's like they just have, there's just something about those games that even though they're not as top of the line like quality wise, like in aesthetics and like in technicalities and all that, like maybe a CD Projekt Red, especially like with the ignoring launch states of Cyberpunk, but just like we're looking what Cyberpunk looks like now compared to like what a Bethesda game looks like, is that you can definitely see that other RPGs are like dealing more like in higher fidelity with this kind of games, but there's just something about the jankier version of what Bethesda does that makes those games so infinitely malleable, infinitely replayable. And that's the thing that it's gonna, if Starfield gets that, it's gonna be so good for like a game that we'll keep hearing about a lot with, and we're definitely gonna talk about Starfield like in just a second. But
I don't even think I care if it's gonna be like a masterpiece, as long as it brings me that love of what Fallout and Skyrim has done. It will be just a juggernaut.
Yeah, I don't care if it's game of the year. Like the only thing that I care that Starfield is that it's a really great game, one of the best of this year, if not like game of the year. I feel like right now with Baldur's Gate 3 like really sucking so much oxygen, and people are now being like, oh man, like I'm fearing for Starfield now, because like look at all this praise that Baldur's Gate is getting already now, and imagine if people start comparing like what it does as an RPG or it does not. But I just hoping that, especially like when you really think about it, is like this is this team's first game since Fallout 4. It's been 8 years. Like the main Todd Howard team hasn't put out a game in 8 years, and unfortunately they had to fall on the sword and pretend they were the ones that made Fallout 76, even though they didn't. But by doing that, it put a stench on that studio. So it's like this has to be a game that finally erases the stench of launch Fallout 76, because even though Fallout 76 has improved a lot, it still has that, like, it's one of those like live service games that its launch state was so catastrophic that people have not forgotten about, like, especially because people still play and show clips of that game today and show that it's still so broken in so many spots. It's gotten functional because the game was just barely functional, but it's still broken in so many different XYZ ways that I'm hoping Starfield finally is like we can move on. Like the dark period from 2018 is done. Now this is like the next big thing from them. So, and it's getting close, Paul. So enough of that. We gotta get into the news. So, press X.
Some news.
Story number 1, Paul. Speaking of, with a story from Tom Ivan at VGC, Starfield has finally gone gold and preloads start today on Xbox.
No crazy delays this time, baby.
No, not anymore. This indicates that the main development of the game has been completed and that it's ready to move to the manufacturing stage. Bethesda has also confirmed that players will be able to preload the game on Xbox Series X and S starting today on August 17th and on Steam on August 30th. Starfield was originally scheduled to be released last November, but in May of 2022 the game was delayed to the first half of 2023. Bethesda announced a further delay this March, with Starfield now set for release on September 6, 2023. Several editions of Starfield are available to pre-order. The $70 standard version, which includes the base game, will also be available via Xbox Game Pass for console and PC. The digital premium edition and the $300 Constellation edition will come with the game's first story expansion, Shattered Space, plus up to 5 days of early access beginning on September 1st. So, again, Paul, like keeping true to a lot of this year compared to other years, it's been so nice that so many games have actually gotten release dates and they're able to finally hit them. But obviously, this is after they had to suffer the delays in years prior. But
yeah, it's now nice that we're been kind of Stockholm syndrome because we were so disappointed last year. But I feel like I remember us not being too disappointed because we had so much going on at the end of that year.
Yes.
Or am I wrong?
No, that's the thing. Remember, 2022 was such a dry spell, but the big disappointment with this was that after we had been talking, Xbox was finally in fighting shape. Even though then, like, we quickly soured on Halo Infinite, even though we enjoyed it at launch. But it wasn't a game that kind of like lingered in our minds, and it was just like the narrative of like, man, what a blunder of a live service. Like, they're not releasing any maps. Like, there's like this connection and desync issues and all that. It's like they're having 6-month seasons that when we reached May, right before their showcase, we were like, but hey, it's like everything will be fine because like they have Starfield already scheduled for this year and Redfall. We're gonna hear more about those games in the 2022 showcase, and then in May we got the big delay. After a day after I told you, it's like we literally said, I feel God of War Ragnarok has a chance that it slips, but Starfield will remain. And then the day after, this got pushed.
Immediately.
And then
flipped on its head.
Yeah, and then a month after, Ragnarok was like, no, we promised 2022. It's actually hitting 2022, even though there was like some drama that they released.
You were so nervous about that. I remember that.
Again, the trauma. How many times have I gotten like, I had to eat crow. Like, I was so excited for Horizon in 2021. Kept like coping until they finally were like, nah, we're pushing it. And bad on them. They could have launched it in 20, like, especially if the game was the same state. Like, obviously they said that it was for polish reasons and all that, and yes, I believe it. But man, if like the game as it came out, if Horizon had come out in 2021, it would have gotten us flowers. Compared to everything else, just Horizon doesn't get us flowers. So it's like that's unfortunate for that series. But yeah, that was like the big disappointment with Starfield. It was like, oh, come on, Xbox. It's like, what happened to all that momentum? Everyone was like, okay, you finally like won a fall. You beat PlayStation in a fall. It's like you release games that not only were good, but so highly rated that you won the Metacritic 2021 Publisher of the Year that year. And obviously Sony won last year. So it's like everyone they no longer can use Xbox 2021 win. It's like, look at that, they got there. But it's like Sony won the next year. So it's like that's not as impressive. You keep flaunting that, but it's just so good finally that it's about to hit. It's gonna hit. It's hitting early in the fall. It's like we're getting it done now. For that.
And just getting out of the way so I can play it and have it instead of waiting like through October and through November, like so many of them used to do. They were just like, we'll put this at the end just to put it at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I feel like September is a good time because it's still relatively late in the year. It's like right at the beginning of fall, but it's especially for games that are supposed to be this robust. It gives you enough time to really, really take your time with it. Unless you're someone that wants to jump into all other million games that are happening around that time. But we said it in our most anticipated game thing. It's like, this is the event. This is like, if there's like a game that is like old everything stops because we gotta see this through regardless of quality. This is the event, and it's finally completed. You can pre-play. There's my dog celebrating. It's finally done, and not only that, people have it now. The preloads start today, but it's like they already gave review code for people, and they allowed people to be like, I have the game. Embargo lifts on August 31st, so they gave them a full 2 weeks to be able to play this, just like they did Fallout 4. So, and a lot of complete reviews launched around the time of Fallout 4. So it's like they're confident enough in the game to give them enough of a lead time. Maybe considering how big the game is, probably could have used even more of a lead time, but it's enough of a lead time that I don't feel bad for reviewers that, like, for example, when they got Mass Effect Andromeda 3 days before embargo, and that was like a long ass game. So some will have time, and I can't wait to hear some impressions. And the big question will be, Paul, if those reviews are so strong, will we cave? Even though we have Game Pass, are we gonna pay for the early access? It's $45.
It's a great question.
We'll see it. We'll see.
We'll see.
It will determine. It's like, will it be an Elden Ring moment? Will it be this year's Elden Ring moment? Because technically Baldur's Gate 3 was an Elden Ring moment for us this year, but with the caveat that we held
strong.
Yeah, because it would require us to play on PC, and we want to play on console. We don't want to buy a game twice. So
no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, so yeah, Starfield, excited for that finally. It's like, it's a game that was trademarked all the way back in 2015, though people found the trademark in 2017. It's been a long time. And new IP from Bethesda. I hope it's good. And for Xbox's sake, I hope this is such a big win for them that
they need it to put Sony on the back end, that's for sure.
Yeah, to finally feel like it's not just Sony and Nintendo. Like, go back to the 360 era, where they were like legit seen from 2006 to 2010 as like a major force in the exclusive category. So really hoping for the best. And if it's bad, oh my god, it's like, that's gonna be, they already, like, them having to go through Redfall this year was such a heartbreaker for them, because it was like, on top of everything, them, like, their next, like, the next Arcane game, the first one finally under their umbrella, even though that game was in development before, but Xbox made a point of being like, oh, this is ours, that it came out like that.
We did it. We worked really hard on it, and you're like,
oh man. Nobody. But yeah, so moving on from that, Paul, let's talk about the big game from November. Story number 2 by Jordan Miller from BGC, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 has been fully revealed, and it releases in November. Following an in-game Warzone event, a new trailer fully unveiled the game, which Activision has been teasing, both intentionally and unintentionally, for some weeks. The game will be released on November 10th. The game will release in several versions, including the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 cross-gen bundle, which includes the full game, early access to the open beta, and the ability to play the game's campaign a week early. The Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 Vault Edition includes campaign early access, which is a pre-order benefit, open beta early access, which is another pre-order benefit, a SOAP operator pack, which is another pre-order benefit, the Nemesis operator pack, and 2 weapon bolts. The Nemesis operator pack includes 4 operators: Captain Price, Ghost, Warden, and Makarov. In the direct sequel to the record-breaking Modern Warfare 2, Captain Price and Task Force 141 face off against the ultimate threat. The ultranationalist Vladimir Makarov is extending his grasp across the world, causing Task Force 141 to fight like never before, reads a description of the game's campaign. The game will also introduce what it calls open combat missions. Not only do these complement the cinematic missions you've come to expect, but they also provide you with numerous additional choices regarding your methods of mission completion. For example, if you prefer to use stealth techniques, you may wish to undertake an OCM with a lights out approach, using night vision goggles and suppress weapons, and complete your objectives without your adversaries knowing you're even there. However, if loud explosions and reckless abandon are part of your repertoire, strap extra armor plates onto your torso and hit those targets head on. And the most important thing that actually piqued my interest the more today, because I showed you the TLDW of this thing, it's also been confirmed that all 16 launch maps from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 from 2009 will feature in the game. These maps have been modernized both graphically and with meticulous attention given to the authenticity and aspects of the maps that made them so popular. So, And they didn't even mention here, but so they're walking back so many things from last year's Modern Warfare 2, like the perks that only activated after a certain point in the match, slide canceling, reload canceling, and all that, and like the movements, all of it. Basically, they want to say like, oh yeah, Modern Warfare 2, f that game. Like it's like everything we did with that, like just move on, come here. It's like I hate that I'm kind of excited with some of the things that I read.
I'll at least acknowledge that I was one of the people that's going to be detracting the fact that they're walking back a lot of the stuff that they chose from Modern Warfare 2 2022. Yeah, I had to think about that for a second. Because I'm one of the people that really doesn't think that Call of Duty should be this reflexive, crazy, twitchy movement, slide, jump,
even though
around.
That's what it was.
Even
for
though
like
that's
most of the
primarily what it's been. Yeah, I agree. I still think it should never have been that point, and I feel like 2019 was a step in the right direction because it was a lot more cerebral. Even though people kind of turned it into something crazy, it still felt like the game was built more for that slower, methodical approach.
2019 was ruined by Warzone because Warzone allowed a sandbox for people to exploit those mechanics that were already in, and that kind of like flipped back into like when people went back to just playing normal multiplayer, they were playing it like they were playing a Warzone match. So, but it had that, and the flow was different. So, yeah. But the thing is that the truth of the matter is like it's kind of like say the market speaks, and the market spoke loudly with 2022, even though it sold a lot because the name Modern Warfare 2 carried weight. It's a game whose staying power was like so quickly finished because those mechanics, like the mechanics they used they nerfed in the multiplayer, that carried over to to Warzone 2.0. After original Warzone was like so big, such a like a massive thing, even though it still has its players, Warzone 2.0 really was a fart in the wind. Like it's crazy, absolutely crazy how quiet it's been in that side. Compared to how
loud. There's a little bit of me that's kind of happy about that. I was like, haha, that's right.
Yeah.
but also it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks because it's like this was before we knew about this, because remember back then it was like the thing that made Modern Warfare 2 kind of appealing was the fact that was probably the last Call of Duty game we're going to get at least in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they flipped and they are doing a full release.
All the way back.
Yeah, it's with this one. But it's like for the community, I'm seeing the tea leaves online as like some of the things. This definitely feels like this year's Call of Duty feels like a mea culpa. Especially on the multiplayer side, it's like we know that you guys didn't like last year's. We're doing this is the Madden thing. It's like remember those features? Screw those. It's like we're like dialing it back because this is exactly what you want. And guess what? We have heard you loud and clear. Like our new maps suck. We know you love the ones from the previous one. We see how big just Modern Warfare 2 2009 like. Fixing the servers on the Xbox Series X and S version and seeing people play those. We know that you really love those maps, even though I don't think all of those maps are winners. I hate the Quarry map in Modern Warfare 2 like a lot.
I'm not a big fan of that one either.
But the other 15 are like I remember them really well. The Afghan map, the Terminal map. It's like there's a reason why it's like the Modern Warfare 2 is considered like Call of Duty. It's like that was such a wonderful era. We were reminded of that just playing them recently, and now finally getting those maps with a modern code of paint with this mechanics and all that. Let's see how it does. On top of that, they already said that new maps are gonna be coming, like through seasonal stuff, like they keep doing, and I feel that's a nice way to kind of like engender some goodwill from the longtime fan base in a way, because like they're basically giving people what they say they wanted from this. On top of they're adding zombies. So no Spec Ops this year, as far as I know. Maybe it is. I missed the thing, but Treyarch working on a Modern Warfare thing is kind of weird because Modern Warfare is usually not a zombie game. That's like Spec Ops, but I mean they screwed up Spec Ops so bad with 2019's, and then the 2022 one was better. It's just not fully supported. And I never did the raids. I heard good things about the raids, but I never did them. So we'll see. But it's like I feel considering this was supposed to be DLC. Let's see how it goes, but they did say the right things, and I'm seeing a lot of positivity. And probably the big thing is, this one actually really excited me. The one that's in charge of the narrative for this game is the Infinite Warfare guy. That
just had me kind of curious.
Yes, because Infinite Warfare, not the best Call of Duty, but it's one of the best campaigns. I think Advanced Warfare is a little bit more fun because Infinite Warfare eventually, when you do a lot of the mission, like if you're doing a lot of the side content, all that, it gets a little long in the tooth. But it had a really great story. It had like how it told its narrative that eventually was Halo, another version of Halo Reach or Star or Rogue One. It actually worked. That was one of the better narratives that have come out of the PS4 generation of Call of Duty. So them tapping back that guy that didn't do last year's campaign, I'm actually curious. And them doing Makarov, that here's what's funny. This is called Modern Warfare 3, but this sounds like 2009's Modern Warfare 2.
That's exactly what I was thinking because, well, like when you think about it, Modern Warfare 2019 was a prequel to Modern Warfare 1.
Yeah.
And then even though they did the whole Shepard nonsense in this Modern Warfare 2 2022, that's the only similarity connection to any of that. So this feels like, I mean, we're just getting Makarov now in this whole reboot thing as like a major character, which was a very Modern Warfare 2 thing. So it's like none of this really
there's a little bit of creative vapidness that we're basically telling that story again. However, they did make a point of saying that they're not concluding the story here. They want, like, the thing is that when they concluded Modern Warfare 3 back in 2011, specifically they mentioned they just went too big, like way too big, like World War 3, like such a the entire world at war, the big destructions, like the big cities and all that. It's like, how do you follow up from that? That they say that they kind of want to do a little more narrative, like with these characters and all that, and tell that more over more games. So it's them basically redoing and not trying to go too crazy, like how Modern Warfare 2 last, because the craziness started with 2009's Modern Warfare 2. Like, that thing was nuts with the invasion of America and all of that, and then World War 3 is starting from that. They're being a little bit more like, they know they have something here because this is a really well-liked sub-brand. People are divided on the quality of last year's campaign. We went on record saying that we didn't like it as much, that we prefer 2019, and then I saw many people saying that the Modern Warfare 2 2022 campaign is one of the best they've done. I thought I was taking crazy pills when I was reading that. So I don't think that that's a unanimous thing, but the sub-brand for Modern Warfare is still super beloved, and I think they're going to lean more on that. It's funny how quickly they leaned on, they moved on from Modern Warfare 2 to this one. We'll see if there's going to be a little bit of a break next year, or if it's just going to be Modern Warfare 4 next year. That's going to be interesting. But as of right now, like, I'm not as skeptical about this one as I was going in with some of these announcements. Especially, I want to see how the sandbox thing that we saw they were testing with Modern Warfare 2, but not well. I hate that mission, that sniper mission, and Modern Warfare 2, because it's kind of like what I told you. It's like, it felt like they wanted to have it both ways. Here's this massive map, but there's only one way to actually do it. If them calling this sandbox means that they're legit like designing these levels to be like, no, yeah, it's like, you, Paul, you're gonna do the guns blazing thing, go crazy. Or me, it's like, no, you want to do the Splinter Cell, like, or like what I love for Modern Warfare 2019, this quiet parts, like when you're like slowly scouring through like through the buildings, and like kind of like that up close and personal from headlines kind of like feeling. I'm glad that this feels like, at least if they are testing something now, here's the thing, they never promoted that they were doing that in Modern Warfare 2. That was never part of the conversation. The only thing they talked about the campaign from last year's was it's a drug cartel. That's all they said. They did. So now they're promoting features. So if they're promoting it, means that they're probably wanting to flesh it out. So the last year they could have said like, oh, also we're gonna do Last of Us style stealth missions. Man, it's like, I wish that campaign was better. That bummed me out. No, I just know it was like, man, so this is how we're gonna go 2 years without a Call of Duty one. Like this, we'll see. Maybe this is gonna be the mea culpa. This improves on it, and
I want to be optimistic, just because they clearly realize they think they messed up, and I will acknowledge the map issues. Some of the guns were behaving a little bit weird.
The way they did unlockables, I heard they're reworking that also for this year.
Yeah, that was really dumb. I will die on the hill the fact that the M14 was only unlockable by playing DMZ, killing a specific NPC in a mostly inaccessible area, and then escaping with said gun to unlock it personally for you. And then even if you want to drop it in follow-up games for other people to unlock, they still have to extract and survive to get their gun. And if you use it, you can't play the game with that gun for 90 minutes in real time. It's just all really ridiculous. So yeah, I hate that unlock process, and I hope that we get something new from that.
Yeah, DMC was just the albatross for that game. They try to make that mode work, but they built that game around that mode, and everything else suffered. That's why people moved on. So no word of DMC for this one, so that's pretty telling. So we'll see. It's like, to Modern Warfare 3's credits, that's the big game in November technically. So it's like everyone kind of like just is gonna battle it out down here in November and September and October, and now Modern Warfare's got it's basic. There's few stuff in November, but like this is the big one in November now, like it always is. So that pre-order for campaign again is like, that's very enticing, because that was one of the cooler things from last year. Be like, oh, we get to play a campaign early. And I think, you know what happened? I think many people never play the campaigns. The people that said this is one of the best ones, I bet you they didn't play the other campaigns because the entire package was available, and the pre-order was like, well, we have this, so might as well play the campaign now as a way for the multiplayer to open. So I think that's where we got the discourse, kind of like the difference, that a lot of people have said that this is one of the best ones they've done, have not been playing the previous ones. So we'll see. It's like pretty tempting, and November's looking pretty light for games that we actually want, so makes acquiring it less of a hassle. But we'll see. Many games could get release days that still don't have it, because Opening Night Live is happening. Story number 3. It's a story by Andy Robinson. Jeff Keighley says this year's Gamescom Opening Night Live is less about announcing new projects. The live event will focus more on updates on some of the biggest games due out over the next year. Speaking to VGC ahead of the August 22nd event, which, goddammit, like both that and the Destiny event again the same day. What a timing.
What is going on with this August 22nd nonsense? Everything is going on this day. And then now I understand why things were coming out on Tuesdays, because at least you get release day Tuesday. Everything else could happen Friday.
So, yeah, that's a Tuesday, because that's when the Destiny showcase, and now this is going to happen. That's going to be a very busy morning.
Oh, shoot, that is a Tuesday. Well, frick.
Oh, no, actually, this is a Wednesday. Sorry. Because
it's
like,
really?
Because
no,
today
21st is a Monday.
Is it? Oh crap! Yeah, it's a Tuesday. So then Ahsoka's on Wednesday. Yeah, I got that mixed up. The 22nd is my sister's birthday. So
okay.
But yeah, so the host and producer said that viewers should expect mostly updates on announced games planned to release over the next 12 months. Kind of like I was telling you, if we have games that still don't have a solid release date, that's where we're gonna get that. Like last year. It's going to be an exciting show with new looks and many unannounced upcoming games like Alan Wake 2 and Black Myth Wukong, Keighley said. This year's Opening Night Live is less about announcing brand new projects and more about giving fans updates on some of the biggest games due out over the next year. I'll say, Opening Night Live last year, which we actually did our reacts to, which happened the same day as the Lightfall reveal that we saw, that gave us dates for a bunch of stuff. That was actually I enjoyed that. I was like, oh, this actually worked for Keighley, because it's like there's nothing more hype than a solid release date that's close. That's where we got the Gotham Knights push up of the day, because that game was supposed to come out later. So we'll see what games do that this year. So Opening Night Live is the Game Awards producers' regular pre-show presentation for the German Gamescom Expo, which last year took place in Cologne as an in-person event for the first time since 2019. Last year's show ran just for over 2 hours and featured more than 35 games. According to Keighley, Opening Night Live presents unique challenges compared to his other annual events, the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, not just due to its European location, but also due to its ties to partners exhibiting at Gamescom itself. First, there are the logistical challenges for our LA-based team to produce a big-scale show in Cologne, Germany. Thankfully, Gamescom and Cologne Mess are great partners. The other challenge, but also opportunity, is that this show is directly tied to the partners and games that will be exhibiting at Gamescom. We're always trying to find ways to create synergy between what's happening on the floor and inside Opening Night Live. Keighley said that despite being his only European event, he views Opening Night Live very much as a global showcase with projects from teams across the world. He's also not surprised that the physical Gamescom event remains popular, even in the post-pandemic environment. The sense of community at Gamescom is so unique and powerful. There really is nothing else like it in the world, he said. Even before I was involved in ONL, I love coming to Gamescom because it has such a focus on the players and community. I tell you, Opening Night Live is basically what E3 evolved to. That's like Gamescom is E3. It's just over there in Europe because E3 couldn't get their crap together. And I would dare argue say that the shows, even though Keely's like downplaying this, I feel that his opening night live shows are better than Summer Game Fest. That was the truth in 2021. That's when we got the Horizon release day, remember? That's where he showed Call of Duty. That's where we got Midnight Suns, Cult of the Lamb. Like I said, then last year we got the release dates after we hated Summer Game Fest. Well, I hated it. You were like, no, it was good. I was like, how was that good? It's like, we probably got nothing. But like opening night live, I was like, yeah, I like this. If he gets us more release dates for things within the next 12 months, I feel this is the perfect spot. Right before the fall, if they want to release some things that we know that's gonna be close, people, December and November is ripe for the taking. If you're looking at the release calendar, at least some people are like wising up and shifting things around. Like story number 4, Paul, by Tom Ivan at VGC, the Assassin's Creed Mirage release date has been brought forward by a week. Previously scheduled to be released on October 12, 2023, the game will now be available for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox consoles on October 5th. Series creator Ubisoft Montreal revealed the new release date in a Twitter post, which also confirmed that the game has gone gold, meaning the main development of the title has been completed. Mirage's development is being led by Ubisoft Bordeaux, the studio behind the Wrath of the Druids expansion of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Billed as a love letter to the original Assassin's Creed, gameplay is focused on parkour, stealth, and assassinations, marking a return to the action-adventure style of games released prior to the more expansive RPG-style series entries Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Ubisoft showed off 8 minutes of Assassin's Creed Mirage gameplay in June. The game's creative director, Stéphane Boudon, said in July that Ubisoft wasn't planning to release any Assassin's Creed Mirage DLC, which we covered here. I absolutely adore when games not only go gold, but they're like, it's done, and it's so done, you can play it a week early. And there were many talks with people online when they were showing the big list of games coming around this time. People were saying, oof, Assassin's Creed Mirage seems like it's gonna get buried like bad, because it's launching so close to so many games from the week after. And now this game is launching in the exact same day that Assassin's Creed Odyssey launched in 2018. October 5th is like an Assassin's Creed day for me. I didn't realize that. Yeah, it was so fun because like, yeah, October 5th sounds familiar. That's cool. Like I remember Odyssey launched around that same time. That's a good time, like early October. And now, at least for us, Paul, this gives us 15 full days before the next big game that we really want, which is Spider-Man 2. 2 games I really want, which is for me is Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which launched both on the 20th. This being a shorter Assassin's Creed game, 15 weeks is more than enough.
Case.
More than enough. So
yes, I'm really relieved. Just because this is like, I don't want them to use any commercial failure to blame the gameplay method and like, oh, people don't want to play this. Like, no, don't leave it on the branch to die. So the fact that they're clearly like, okay, we're gonna shift things around, we actually are in a good position, we're gonna like, hopefully the fact that they're going gold so early and they're willing to move their release day up means that everything is super stable and we're not going to get a million bugs when it releases. So ideally, that means we're going to get the best version of this game we possibly can, best foot forward, 15 days before Spider-Man. That's enough time for word of mouth to kind of spread for people. People can try it out. I don't even remember what we discussed the price was going to be for this game, but
it's 50.
I had a feeling. Okay, so yeah, the fact that it's also $50 is like, oh, it's not as expensive. I got time. I
got time for a 25 to 30 hour game, which can be shorter if you use mainline. Just based on just the fact that it's not RPG means that mainlining it should be easier, because it's like the other Assassin's Creed games were like level gated on like
and you're not
XPs
trying to
and all
level
that.
up and get more skills and do any of that. It's
I do find it funny how it's flipped from how it was back in 2018, because Spider-Man 2018 came first, then Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now Assassin's Creed Mirage comes first, then Spider-Man 2. And I feel this is the better way. This is a better ramp up technically for me personally, just like in quality and all that. So can't wait. Like, this gives you just more time. This is another one of those games that I signed up for review over at Season Gaming. I've had amazing luck with us getting code for the games that I want to review, but Ubisoft did send Valhalla early to Season Gaming back in 2020. they had a review like earlier within the week of when that game came out. So fingers crossed for that one. But I was gonna play it regardless, especially it being cheaper with easier point of entry. Now I don't have to sweat having to finish this in 8 days. 15 is more than enough based on how like I play my games. So, and then someone else around that week that the game that came out five days after this one was like, you know what? We're sandwiched here. We probably need like this game to have a little bit more of a spotlight away. Let's delay slightly. Story number 5, also by Tom Ivan at BGC. Alan Wake 2's release date has been pushed back to late October. Previously scheduled to launch on October 17, the game will now be released on October 27 for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via the Epic Games Store. October is an amazing month for game launches, and we hope this date shift gives more space for everyone to enjoy their favorite games, Remedy said. Ahead of a planned showing at Gamescom, it added, "We can't wait to show you what everyone's favorite novelist is up to in the dark place next week. Thanks for your patience." On Monday, Ubisoft brought forward the Assassin's Creed Mirage release date by 1 week to October 5th. So it's so funny this all happened within this week. October's release schedule also includes Detective Pikachu Returns on October 6th, Forza Motorsports on October 10th, Lords of the Fallen on October 13th, Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Marvel Spider-Man 2 on the October 20th, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 on the 24th, Cities Skylines on the 24th, Alone in the Dark on the 25th, and Total War Pharaoh sometime in October. Remedy announced in May that Alan Wake 2 would be digital-only release. Explaining the decision, it said a large number of players have shifted away from buying physical games, and that not releasing a disc would help keep the title's price at $59.99 on consoles and $49.99 on PC. So,
I tell you right now, that price is BS.
The what for the?
You're gonna put it on PC for $50 like that, and then make consoles spend.
Here's what's funny. Do you know that used to be the thing? Always, PC games were always like $10 cheaper. Then some developers got greedy, and then they like price parity. They gave price parity to everything. But it's so funny that they went old school. That was one of the reasons why people were like, "It's better to be in PC Master Race. Our games are cheaper because of distribution." That was usually like the excuse is like, we're not building discs, we're not like shipping this, you're buying it directly from digital stores. That's why we can make it cheaper for the margins. And then when Activision got a hold of it, like, no, wait, we can charge the exact same amount on console and still make a lot of money. And that's when all that switched. But I would say this, I didn't know if I was going to be able to play this game when it was going to release. This was on October 17th. It'd been on the 27th, and me reading you that whole list, out of like Spider-Man and Mario that are in that same day. The other one that I was kind of wanting was the Metal Gear collection that was 4 days after. But that's something that we can either get on release, we can wait a little bit because, like I told you, November's up for the taking. It being on the 27th, unless it's like you gotta play this now. I think this could even be a November 1st game for us. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I usually get paid on the 31st, and the first, like, it would be like when I start allocating my budget to like the games that I want to play. There's nothing I really want in November other than Modern Warfare now that we know, because November has just been so vacant. I feel this gives him more of a space, like a better space, and we might be done with Spider-Man by that time. Look how quickly we got done with Ragnarok, so. Because we will want to do like a spoiler cast for that. That feels like the next game ripe for a special episode for us. So I feel this makes it more likely we play it compared to before. 3 days before Spider-Man, hell no. Like, it was gonna take so much for me to convince you. So
yeah.
Yes,
I want to try with Alan Wake 2 for sure, but as long as it's not at the cost of anything else going on. So it's kind of nice that it's stepping back, and it's like, all right, well, you might actually get us now.
Yeah, that's what makes me excited, because like they had. I'm glad for Ubisoft and Remedy to really look at that insane release calendar, and they have scheduled their games at the end of that like massive like conglomeration. One at the beginning was like getting out there first, and then the other one, we're the last one, and we're synergizing with Halloween. We're so close. So it's like, so it's like some people could even just out of synergy of like, what horror game do I want to play today for Halloween? Oh, there's Alan Wake 2. So that could really work in the game's favor. So
real spooky hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
or
good
go
on them.
Back and play Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, and then go into Alan Wake 2.
Ironically, I feel like because those games came out so early this year, they are ripe for the Halloween sale. Like Absolutely. They're so ripe. Like when we waited for Village on 2021.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
But I feel like Mirage and Alan Wake 2 are not gonna get buried. And again, it's just going back to like that Mirage one. Like I want Mirage to launch with as little excuses as possible, because technically, compared like Assassin's Creed as a brand, like I feel like will have more of a power than like something like Forza or even Lords of the Fallen. Detective Pikachu, Nintendo's its own thing, so it's like I feel like regardless of how big a Nintendo thing is, it's like it's different for a game that releases from other platforms. So I feel like Mirage actually does have a better shot coming first. So hoping for the best, because I need that to be the proof of concept, people. Let's preview Ubisoft. As long as it's good. As long as it's good. And Alan Wake 2 is looking really good. So I'm glad it's got its time now. Like I beat Spider-Man 2018 in like 3 or 4 days. So it's like we'll have the time. We'll totally have the time.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I platinumed the 2.
I think I spent a lot of time on that first one. I don't know why I had like barely any desire to like force my way through it. I did all of the side stuff. I did so much of that.
Yeah, part of me was I was still playing Destiny because Destiny 2 Forsaken came out that same week, and I started playing Forsaken. Then Spider-Man happened. I was like, I actually described it in our clan, the older version of what our Destiny 2 clan used to be. We used to have roll call. Like if you were not playing or actively like checking on the roll call that they were doing, they were like booting you out. And in one of those times that I was playing Spider-Man, I completely missed it. And so I kind of wanted to get it done. And then when I went back to Destiny, I saw that I was no longer in the clan. So what I ended up doing was just complete my campaign with my other 2 alternate characters, which took me much longer because I was having severe connection issues in that expansion that was driving me up a wall. So to the point that I even had to call my internet provider, and they had to like go into my ceiling to see that a cable got like bit in what looked like a cat or something like that. So they had to like change that, because there's nothing more like that grinds through your teeth than seeing the contacting Destiny 2 error like thing. That is like so. It's like whenever
I know it very well now.
Yeah. So imagine me back then. So that's why I blasted through Spider-Man just for that. And also back then I was like, in these big Sony games, especially if they were story based, I like hearing spoiler casts, especially the spoiler cast with the game director. And so I knew when some spoiler casts were gonna go live, I wanted to be done with the game to be able to listen to those freely. So that's why I played it so fast. So and I also was enjoying my time, so I didn't feel too bad about doing that and also platinuming the game. So we'll see with this one. But even kind of like I told you, it's like even with this game coming out on the 27th, it's like it's so ripe for that. Like we can even wait just a couple days, like because it's finally like I feel I gotta get a good window to be able to try it. So story number 6, Paul. Speaking of Destiny, there's been some really great segue this week. So we kind of talked about this briefly last week and what we've been playing about like a state of the game that happened, kind of like these big write-ups that some of the game directors, whoever's the current game director of Destiny, does to kind of like talk about where the game is currently, what are the things that they're doing right, what are the things that they're doing wrong, and what are the things that they're trying to do long-term changes for. Those usually were well received by the community. This was the first one that was very, very badly received, like so freaking much, to the point that the director had to record a 15-minute video just on camera, kind of like if it was a like a content creator to like address the community. That was very well like to address the reactions to the state of the game. So story number 6 by Chris Collins, Destiny 2 game director, says recent state of the game communication wasn't up to our standards. In a 16-minute video on Twitter, director Joe Blackburn addressed a number of issues that are arising from a State of the Game blog article posted on the official Destiny site on August 3rd. A few weeks ago, we put up a State of the Game communication that wasn't up to our standards for what you all had come to expect from those kind of communications, Blackburn said. It didn't provide the high-level vision that we normally provide, and really and truly, a bunch of us were heads down and working on the final shape, expansion DLC, and weren't able to give it the sort of care and love that we normally put into these kind of communications. And that's nobody's fault but mine here on this. Blackburn also conceded that Bungie's current strategy of delivering one new PvP map and a few reprises a year isn't working, and that the studio will instead be releasing a free pack of maps next year. I think it's fair to say this approach is not producing the crucible that our players expect from us, he explained. It's clear that the slow trickle of PvP maps isn't having the effect we want, and although it gets an injection of PvP maps every so often in the ecosystem, it's also forcing this one new map a year, which means we're trying to build a map that does everything, which means it can be good at anything. Which, by the way, perfect example of what happened to that Throne World PvP map they added last year. Horrible map. Horrible map for everything other than Rift. And even then, it's not that good because of its weird symmetrical, super long layout. And they took forever for them to launch that map. So, just as that kind of an example. So next year, we're going to change our philosophy. Instead of a slow trickle of maps throughout the year, we're going to focus our effort into a single map pack that's free for everyone. So imagine new maps coming in one drop where we can make a bunch of new experiences that can all be good at specific things and adds a big variety in a single drop next year. Now, this is a shift from our strategy, so it's going to take us time to understand the details of what we're putting out here and get that out to you all next year. Blackburn also said the studio wants to bring more test modes to its core playlists, and will be giving all players a free Eververse armor set for Season 22. Destiny 2's next major piece of content, the final shape, is due for release in February 2024. It's set to conclude the Light and Darkness saga, which has been building since the first expansion to the original game. So, other things from this thing where it's like when he addressed the whole armor situation, where in that state of the game, whoever was in charge of the armor thing, they were talking about, yeah, we had promised like new armor like for ritual playlists every year, but we weren't able to do that this past year because it's like so hard to be able to do that armor. Even though then when you go to the Eververse, they have no problem launching like 3, 4, 5 armors in like one single season that you pay money for instead of earnables. And they were talking about how they didn't communicate well that they're putting a lot of earnable cool armor into like the higher PvE activities, kind of like dungeons, raids, Trials of Osiris, which to be fair, if you look at that armor there, sometimes it's like really cool. That's where the efforts went. It's just not like for regular play, you couldn't get those. So how they're addressing that is that an Eververse set that supposedly is one of the cooler looking ones is gonna now be available for gameplay for the next year, and that's how they're trickling those down. It's like they're taking an Eververse armor set now out, and that's probably gonna be like how they do every season now, instead of just activity.
They're actually gonna do what everybody had suggested. Because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what everybody said. They were like, you have so many Eververse armors, just give that to people.
Yeah, they're literally doing that now. So because they do so many, and they're gonna keep ones that are gonna be paid because that's how they make their money. And here's the thing, people, they keep doing that because people keep buying. It's like so they're gonna keep doing things that still brings them money. So, and cosmetics is always such a big such monetization in this kind of games, which is always a slippery slope because these are games made for you to loot things. So when you put so much cool stuff where you can just earn through paying instead of gameplay wise, that starts like messing up the flow. So they were leaning too much into that, and the excuses were not working. So at least this is happening. But Gambit, that got a public execution last time, and that's just not gonna happen. Like Gambit is just that. And the thing is that Marathon is basically Gambit. The Gambit team moved to Marathon. The idea of Marathon is like you fight players and PvE enemies as you're like looting and extracting things. That's basically Gambit. So they're just making a whole game of that. So that mode is dead. But at least PvP players, which have been so salty in the post Beyond Light era, where it's like they barely got in maps and like the PvP community. Here's also the weird thing. This was the first time that the PvP community of Destiny finally fully revolted and left after that state of the game. Because
good for them, they finally played chicken with the devs and won.
And they, like always, like people were saying, like the reason why PvP was like getting such minimal investment always was Bungie was seeing the numbers. People were still playing. When you have a multiplayer game that in concurrent numbers, you're always hovering above 500,000 players in a mode that's barely gotten support, what is that telling them? Like, that's not super healthy, but 500 concurrents, and then you multiply that like through an entire month as it ups and downs and all that. It's like, dude, what you're seeing is that, oh yeah, we're barely supporting, but people are playing it. So it's like, we're good. Like, it's holding there. It's holding fine. Like, it's doing its stuff. So people are seemingly happy they're still playing. So let's focus on other stuff. But after that state of the game, they left in droves from like 500 to like 60,000. That's when it's like, that's when the alarm bells happen. It's like, they took action. I'm proud of the PvE community finally putting their money where their mouth is, and now finally they're gonna take them seriously. We haven't gotten a map pack since Forsaken. That's insane. 5 years without a map pack.
I have to give it to the devs for immediately damage controlling this and going, okay, we heard, like, we're gonna eat crow on this, we're gonna swallow our pride, we're gonna change things around a little bit. And because a lot of people would just be like, look at EA and the Battlefield 2042. You don't like it, you don't play the game.
Yeah.
All right.
That was 5. That Battlefield 5. You don't like it, don't play it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of that whole idea where it's like the opposite mentality where they took care of business. They're like, all right, we're going to fix this up. And now you and I even said it yesterday where we were actually super excited for what they're going to have in store for all the changes they're making, the new things they're buffing and whatever. For what's that, just like a week from now?
Yeah, literally by Tuesday we're gonna see some of those changes in, and that's why we played the raid yesterday for my birthday bash, because it was like, now it's feeling like time to come back. And again, it's like, the thing is that with Bungie is that they will only respond when they actually see a tangible negative reaction that leads to players leaving. The problem was that in other controversies that happened this year, like Lightfall, for example, yes, they responded even though they tried to damage control. It's like, oh yeah, how we're doing story this year. It's like, we're gonna trickle out throughout the entire year. But this was after everyone was like so angry about how bad the Lightfall story was. And even though we have some people in our clan trying to justify it, but that was always the plan. It's like, if you know how to read the lines, it's like, it was not the plan. They put it out there hoping that people are not going to react as bad as they did, and they had to damage control it. It's like, this year has just been really sloppy compared to like what I expect from them or how they've been handling this game in previous year before that, especially just in the Witch Queen year. So that's why I'm like, I'm finally glad that but the problem with that is like, even though they addressed the community, people didn't leave in droves. A lot of people were playing Lightfall. Lightfall was the most played expansion. That's insane.
Crazy.
Yeah, but also a goodwill that was again, like, that's a reaction to goodwill built upon a year. Witch Queen, a lot of people say that's the best time Destiny has ever had, and in PvE side I would agree. PvP and Gambit I don't. Like, Forsaken was a better time, like, overall for the health of the game, but like Witch Queen had that kind of high. Like, we both said, like, the Witch Queen campaign was amazing. Just the campaign alone was so great that carried a lot of goodwill. So a lot of people played Lightfall that didn't play the season because they were like, yeah, I want another campaign like that. And then obviously then people finally reacted, and then the plummeted down. So, but again, it's like what Joe Blackburn did of doing that, not having to react to this, like doing another written thing that obviously goes through PR and feels so impersonal. And he now said that after the showcase they're doing on Tuesday, an hour after, they're doing a live Q&A, because this showcase was recorded a few weeks ago, so it's like they had to prepare it and all of that, so that's not gonna deal anything that was addressed in the state of the game. Now people can like ask him direct questions live, and he'll be able to answer, because now we know it's like live on the floor at the current moment what's gonna happen with this game, what are some of the philosophies that are changing. They need that communication because they have scaled back communication heavily this past year, because the community has also gotten way too toxic. Also, that has been way too extreme. So, and Bungie is also unfortunately with them, they're the experts of pendulum swings and letting a pendulum swing way too hard to extremes. They were super communicative all like one time, and then nothing. Like, always so hard for them to like land the pendulum right here of like, still talking about keeping some distance because you're gonna put yourself out there too much. But now Joe Blackburn said, not only am I gonna do that Q&A, now every month I'm gonna host a stream that I'm gonna be playing the game, and everyone can come in and talk, like send me questions. I'm gonna try to answer it. Especially, this is the game director. That's what they need. When Diablo 4 launched Season 1 and nerfed everything into the ground, like killing sorcerers and necromancers and all that, and the community revolted, what did Blizzard do the day after? Launch a live stream to apologize and talk how they were going to try to address things. This is the kind of communication we need from these live service games, because it's like these games are constant. They require you to like be in the know what they're planning to do to keep you in. Like keeping too quiet, it's like then people are just gonna leave in droves. Look what happened to us. After a certain while, it's like we're not feeling the content. Obviously, we got really great games also at the same time. We had an excuse to spend our time better than playing middling Destiny content. So that's why I was like so happy that now they got the reaction loud and clear. But obviously, it took them to see their numbers dip. But again, that's how you hit them. You either hit them with the player count or the wallet. Because if people are saying something but not reflect, it's like, remember the Modern Warfare 2 boycott Modern Warfare 2 back in the 360.
Yeah.
What happening the day of the launch? Everyone that was in that group that were gonna boycott Modern Warfare 2 were all playing. So it's like gamers are weak-willed. Sometimes we're all very weak-willed. We say that we want to do stuff, and then we how many times I flipped. I'm not gonna do that. End up doing it. So it's like there's just something about gaming that's like so contradictory of what we want, because it's a specific fun that it took until this moment to get this bad for them to do this. But I'm glad for the community. They finally will probably have created big change, and they even are saying that the live service of Destiny is changing after the final shape. So can't wait to hear that. Are you gonna be home on Tuesday, Paul?
I will, in theory. I should be, but working. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because you know what our best video content is of the year usually, especially last year.
True.
Would you be able to do because this was usually don't go for more than an hour. We're not going to do a live reaction. It's on Tuesday, early in the morning. Early in the morning, like you're 11, probably.
I'm not going to commit to that on record, so we'll see.
We'll see. I'm going to try to do the react myself just because that worked for us, just to kind of keep the tradition. But if I can have you there, that'd be fun just to keep going. Like, we did 2 years straight. Obviously, you have a different work environment. Like, you have a different work situation. So, and the week after, you're going to pull ranks.
Oh, yeah.
So, final story, Paul. This one is bittersweet, but it was bound to happen. Yeah. The Xbox 360 store is closing next year. Microsoft has announced that it will be closing down the Xbox 360 store next year. In a new post on the official Xbox Wire blog, it was announced that the ability to buy new games, DLC, and other entertainment content from the Xbox 360 store will end on July 29, 2024. This specifically refers to the ability to buy content directly through the Xbox 360 console, and the ability to buy content from the Xbox 360 marketplace site. It does not affect the ability to buy backwards compatible Xbox 360 games and DLC on the Xbox One or Xbox Series X and S stores, which will continue to be available. Microsoft stresses that while the Xbox 360 store will close down on July 29, 2024, players using their 360 consoles after this date will still be able to use all their previously purchased Xbox 360 games and DLC. It also knows that if players have deleted a game that they purchased, they will still be able to re-download it. Players will still be able to play these games online as long as their online servers are still supported by the publisher and can still save their game progress to the cloud. Microsoft points out that the Microsoft Movies and TV app will no longer work on the Xbox 360 on the same date, meaning movies and TV shows purchased through the service will no longer be viewable on 360 consoles after July 29, 2024. These movies and TV shows will still be part of the user's library, however, and can still be viewed on the Movies and TV app on PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. While many hundreds of Xbox 360 games are backwards compatible and will still be available on the Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S stores, the closure will still mean that some digital-only 360 games that never were made backwards compatible will essentially disappear. So, first the good news.
Okay.
Yeah, first the good thing is that at least they're committed to the fact that if you bought anything digitally, you will always be able to download it. Because it's like those games still exist in their servers. It's just the ability to do transactions for new stuff. They're basically doing what Sony wanted to do 2 years ago when they wanted to close the PS3 store.
Yep.
And then they were bullied into not doing that.
I think it's a very important detail alongside something like the 3DS market closing, for instance.
because Microsoft is the one company I think hasn't earned any sort of vitriol in this subject, because they have done so much work to make as much games that are on the 360 playable on everything else.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for them to just shut that down, get that out of the way, don't delegate any more resources to it, and just put it on all the stuff that, I mean, still, Xbox One is how old now?
10 years.
Exactly.
It's gonna be 10 years.
So, and that's still, like, they're still committing to holding on to that because they made everything playable for everything up to that last decade. So it's like unfortunate for a lot of countries that like get old 360s and really old technology that it's like that's all they've got.
Yeah,
certainly, but also they did their best to make it available everywhere else. So
yeah, and to be and if we're really honest about like some of the things that Microsoft has made backwards compatible, because that's the thing, like hundreds of games have become backwards compatible, but it's not the entire library. However, they were able to bring the important stuff backwards, like the games that define that system. 95% of those games are available on Xbox Series X and S and even Xbox One. There's still a few that still surprise me were not made backwards compatible. For example, Bionic Commando Rearmed. The second game is backwards compatible, but not the first one. And there's and then also like the Orange Box. Technically, you could buy it digitally, but only through the 360 marketplace to play it on Xbox One. But you couldn't buy that game directly through Xbox One. So there was like some weird licensing issues, or like some weird like hoops to jump to be able to to play games that were technically made backwards compatible. So there was some weirdness there, but Microsoft is the company that made such a considerable effort to bring a lot of that library forward, to the point that this 360 store is going to close, but a lot of backwards compatible games will be available to be purchased in the modern systems. You go to the store, there's a backwards compatible section, there's a whole list of 360 and original Xbox games. And then many games that then got remastered. So it's like you get them in remaster form, like buy them and get them elsewhere. So apparently there's like 220 games that will be lost. BGC made like a follow-up like report on that. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Analysis: more than 220 digital games will disappear for this, but it includes games like, let me read you a few of them: 0D Beat Drop, 10 Frame Bowling from Kinect, 1942 Joint Strike, Amy, Anna Extended Edition, Arcadian Warriors, Assault Heroes, Backbreaker Vengeance, Bastion, Batman Arkham Origins, Blackgate, Batman the Telltale Series, Battle Academy, Battlezone, Bejeweled Blitz Live, Bionic Commando Rearmed, like I mentioned you, Bomberman Live, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, Call of Duty Classic, which that blows my mind that Call of Duty Classic was never made backwards compatible. The rest of the 360 games are there. Why is the original one was not made? But that's there. Cloudberry Kingdom. I'm just even skipping. Death Talk, Defense Technica, The Dishwasher Versus, Dungeon Defenders, Dustin Elysian Tale, Echo the Dolphin, Exit 2, Fest, Fire Pro Wrestling, Frozen, Fruit Ninja Connect, Fusion Genesis, Goosebumps, Gotham City Imposters, which, by the way, do you remember Gotham City Imposters? It was like this first-person shooter set in the Batman Arkham game. Like,
I think it was it first person? I thought it was like
first person.
Third person.
Third person was the multiplayer for Batman Arkham Origins.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Gotham Imposters was the other one. That's right.
Yeah, it was just the downloadable
thing. They really thought they were cooking with that. Plan.
Yeah. Kinect Sports Gems, The Original Life is Strange, Max the Curse of Brotherhood. Here's the thing, a lot of these games that I'm reading got re-releases on Xbox One, so technically those games still exist. There's just still a few that are like super niche things, and I will say, like, especially because Microsoft closed their backwards compatibility team back in like November 15, 2021. They made a big deal in that anniversary when they announced that Halo Infinite free-to-play multiplayer was going to launch early. They released a final batch of backwards compatible games, and they made a big deal of being like, yeah, this is like because of licensing and all that. If we feel this is the last time that we can be able to do something like this for a while, like, and so let's make this the last hurrah. But that was before Activision. I bet you top dollar they're gonna try to reactivate that team to get a lot of those 360 Activision games that they haven't been able to get because of licenses and all that to re-enable. And I hope when they do that, they go to this list and go to like developers and see if they can relicense them, so that when they close this store. At least a bunch of these games can still live on. Because it does suck to think that some of these games are just gonna disappear forever. Kind of like what happened with the WiiWare. So, but their solution was based on they gotta get the license from a publisher, and some of those publishers sometimes don't even exist, or they didn't want to pay the fees and all that. So, it's either that or people go bully them. Go bully them like we bullied Sony when they announced the PS3 was gonna die, like this store. And that PS3 store is still alive, but I bet you now that this is happening, within a week we're gonna hear we're closing the PS3 store with the same stipulations, so you'll still be able to download everything. But that one hurts more because there's no backwards compatibility on PlayStation. So there's even more games that never made it forward, and some of them are just made it forward through either weird at porting or the streaming. So different buys, but now the big question is, did it really cause them to keep this up? Like, if we're really honest, it's been 19 years though, because the 360 store opened in 2005. This is going to be 2024.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, honestly. I wish that... it just frustrates me that companies like Sony and Nintendo are just so far behind because of their own dumb coding abilities. I say that as a man who's incapable of coding even the simplest items. But truthfully, I mean, it's just they need to get their act together. But on the actual subject, it's unfortunate, but I guess the world never stops spinning.
Yeah. And to be fair, just reading a bunch of this, at the very least, I'm glad that some of these games, kind of like I told you, did find a new life with an Xbox One release, at the very least. Because everything from the Xbox One store, unless it was like a licensed game that ran out and they had to jank it from the store, all of that is still available. And there's always the chance that if it had a physical release, you can still find it somewhere. This is how I found this sucker. This has been delisted for so long. It was so hard to find, but I still found it. It was a pain in the ass, but I did. So RIP Xbox 360. What a fantastic console, I tell you. Just thinking about that, it's like, this feels finally like the death of that console, but the beauty of what Microsoft did is, like, at the very least, the highlight reels of that console live on, and in their best shape. With some of those games with FPS boost and all that, like, just look at Red Dead that launched today on PS4. A lot of people are buying the Xbox version because they're like, wait, this is cheaper, and the work Microsoft already gives us a lot of the benefits, even though I've sent a screenshot that I told you that Digital Foundry found that there's actually been some more work that makes the PlayStation the PlayStation version they launched today slightly better than what you get on Xbox, but you have to pay $50 for that. And if you already had that game already, you already get a pretty good modernization just for free. So it's like, RIP 360. I'm just hoping, again, like I was saying, I hope Microsoft is going to reopen that 360 backwards compatibility team just to get the Activision stuff that they're about to get. Because there's so many of those games that I will love to see there, and then they use that as an excuse to do like a final pass to these games. Because they're the ones that preach about, like, out of the big three, Xbox is the one that's taking care of history. The best out of the three. It's not perfect, but they're actually doing it. So, RIP to that, and that's the end of the news, Paul. Quickly, read us. What are the game releases for August 20th to August 26th? Really solid week, I'll say, just from what I'm reading.
Crazy nonsense here. So we got Fort Solace, Arthur Morgan and Troy Baker.
Troy Baker and Roger Clark sci-fi game. That's like Heavy Rain.
Yeah. Fort Solace, PlayStation 5, PC, and Mac on August 22nd. That is shocking.
Yeah,
Immortals
Mac
of Avium,
slowly.
PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on August 22nd. Smurfs Kart, the weird black sheep of that bunch. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on August 22nd. WrestleQuest. Why does this feel like the second time I've said that?
Because here's what happened with WrestleQuest. It was supposed to come out 2 weeks ago, and the day before it was going to launch, they found a bug and they delayed it, but the reviews went up.
Gosh. So, yeah, WrestleQuest on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and
PC on August 22nd. Blasphemous 2, the infamous pixel art, it's Dark Souls but not really game. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on August 24th.
Reviews went out today, by the way, for that one.
Oh yeah,
they were great. So.
Unpacking on iOS and Android on August 24th. And last but certainly best, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on August 25th. Tell me, I'm actually kind of surprised to find out this is coming to Xbox. For some reason, I thought this was going to be a PlayStation only.
Yeah, which one? Armored Core?
Yeah.
No, that was always like multi-platform.
Well, I knew it always was. For some reason, I thought that... Actually, no, I did always think it was a Sony thing. And I knew it wasn't owned by them.
Yeah, the PS1 versions, like the original, like Armored Core 1 through 3, were on just on PlayStation. Then
that must be what I'm thinking
Armored Core 4 launched on 360 and on PlayStation 3. It became a multi-platform thing. So,
okay, that makes sense.
So yeah,
well,
and,
so I'm so
and the PC version of that game is going to run at 120 frames for people that have the rigs for that. So there's been a lot of people that were going to play it on console that are like, ooh, I think my PC is good enough for that one. But because it's From Software, yeah. But the thing is that they say that, but From Software and PC versions are not. Let's just say they're not the cream of the crop way to play that. Like going all the way to the original Dark Souls that it wasn't even able to be played with keyboard, mouse. You had to plug in a controller. Like those games have just never been great on PC. So, but yeah, that's coming next week. But I tell you, this is a solid week because it's like I've heard really good stuff about For Souls, especially after that 14-minute gameplay thing that made it look like Heavy Rain, and I'm like, man, a Heavy Rain style game with the acting chops of Arthur Morgan and Joel Miller, like in there, it's like that's some good get there. Immortals of Avium, that was in our top 10, like for the games that we were most anticipating. At the bottom, that was your number 10. That was my number 9. So that one is like EA has provided us, like EA actually gave us a season gaming Dead Space, so they know us. This is an EA game. Please don't forsake us with this one, please. Hoping for that one. Blasphemous 2, I played the original one. It's like the art style of that game is so nuts. It's like that is a really shocking, like gory, like especially like some of the imagery of that game is like really startling, and it's so unique in like the millions of Metroidvanias you get there. And apparently this game is better than the original one. So, but Armored Core 6, I mean, it's like that's gonna be a big test. I want to see like if I'm able to penetrate this this highly customizable, like quick bite missions, like do the like
it turns out not all of them are like that. There was like some that are the 90 seconds and some are like a longer journey through a region. Some are like really linear, and some are like a wide open area where you can just do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like Armored Core 4. So it's like they're staying true to that. Here's also the thing, Paul, because like Google Armored Core 4 IGN review. Just real quick, just put it in Google.
Wait, what was it?
Armored Core 4 IGN review. Just put it. Just review it. You just pull that up. Real quick.
All right, hang on. Pulling it up. Okay, so I'm going through. Am I looking for the verdict?
Yeah.
Ooh, 5.9. Yeah.
It's kind of what I'm telling you. It's like these were such hardcore like series that when it came to critics, it's like and then Google Armored Core 5. The last one that was in 2013.
Yeah.
Look it up.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm just like filling time for the empty space.
All right, here we go. Scrolling down, and 7.5.
Yeah, that's the caliber in critics for that series. But that was pre-Souls. That was like From Software being known like this. So. True. Now, like, we're getting an Armored Core 6 in the post-Elden Ring world after especially a decade of Souls games, like, elevating the cachet in critics for that studio. I am really curious to see how Armored Core 6 reviews. Based on that, it's like, will it get, like, finally as, like, a highly respected studio getting the props it deserves after their games usually were pretty impenetrable before? That were just so hardcore things? We'll see. But they definitely, at least, they've made people Armored Core fans. just for Elden Ring last year. So it's kind of like it's what Duchess was making fun of. It's like, and suddenly people are Armored Core fans. So
power to them, because the Armored Core PR blast has just been killing it at every turn.
Yeah, the game looks amazing. Like, especially like what makes it cool is like I haven't played a game like that in like forever. Like I mentioned, I played Armored Core 4 back on PS3 in 2007, a summer, when I was just renting because I just got a console. I didn't have money to buy games and I needed to play something on the damn thing. So that's when I played it for at least 2 days, and it was like, there's some cool stuff here, but this is like my Wii brain can't like wrap my head around having to customize this mech to do this like quick missions and all that. But there is so much of Armored Core that I've seen in some of the Souls games, like the battle against Radon, how it starts, that you're so far away and Radon is like there and it shoots you. That is so Armored Core. It's not even funny. It's like the desert environment, it looking so red and all that, and you having to rush to meet the boss in the middle. It's like the DNA of that series has like seeped into some of From Software's other games, that it's kind of cool seeing it now with this reverence and knowing that they could implement some modernity after everything they've learned in the last decade. So regardless of higher reviews, Paul, again, I preface it, just be like, look what it got before. I'm still getting it. We're still getting it. Just thanks to Elden Ring. It's like they got our trust for that. Unless the reviews are catastrophic, that's where they were gonna be like, yeah. So, but again, it's like it wouldn't be out of the ordinary. Look how it was reviewing. So
true. But yeah, well,
where can people find you?
This has been a time.
Yeah.
They can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter, or X.com. I'm not going to call it that, so just assume that you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I post random nonsenses, and I haven't done any of that in a bit, so pretty soon we'll have our next Days Without Nonsense 0. Alejandro, where can they find you?
They can find me at X at A_Segovia. They can find me at Alejandro Segovia 93 on both Instagram and Threads. And they can find me, my written content currently at seasongaming.com, and my legacy written content at thecriticalcorner.com. And I might write a review of Spider-Man there, because it's like, at this point, I'm not scheduled to review the game, but I did a review of the original one back then, and it was one of my most read reviews on my site. And my site is monetizable right now, so I might do one there in October. But until then, like, I'm reviewing my stuff over at Season Gaming. So, Paul, it's been fun. This was a fun first episode for me as a 30-year-old now. So, what a fun time. Gonna go back and try to finish Amazing Spider-Man as I'm trying to ride the wave as we wait. And
best of luck. I'm going to continue adding more mods to my Fallout game. Yeah,
please screenshot it. Try to, because there's a share button in the Xbox controller.
That is true. My problem is I need to link it to all my social media.
It's so easy.
I just don't like wasting my time doing it.
Yeah, like always. But I definitely want to see that, because I definitely need to say I haven't seen most of that, because you're convincing, like, should I just reinstall it also? But right now I have to make the space.
I don't think there's anything, especially for the Xbox version, I don't think there's any way they could bring it up to snuff on regular next-gen consoles. It's not going to make it look better than what it will with mods.
Yeah, and especially because the Series S version already got FPS boost. So it's like
the Sony PlayStation 5 version looks super good, because even those minuscule mods they add still does an amazing job.
Yeah, and I think there's a mod to unlock the frame rate also, but it's like it disables trophies also, so it's like it's interesting. But that's also with the mod thing. Yeah. But yeah, it's like better to play it on Xbox, because it at least gets you in the mindset that that's the Fallout system, that's the Bethesda system, because that's where you're going to be playing Starfield in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
the crazy stuff. But until that happens, people, thank you so much for listening. I'm glad to see that those episodes that recently in audio have been doing really well. Video is just whatever right now. So, but thank you so much for always listening. Like I mentioned at the beginning, like give us a like, subscribe, give us a review if you like what you hear or you didn't like what you hear, because we'd like to hear some feedback other than what some friends sometimes tell me. So, and until then, enjoy the rest of this month, because it's just flying by. It's only 14 days before September, people, and we're getting more games soon. So enjoy what's there, finish your backlog, enjoy a little bit of the sun, unless it's like scorching hot, touch some grass, exercise, then play some games, and
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.